Ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. After all the talk, we are now live. We are now live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, now on Roku even, on the Northeast Streaming Sports channel, and we are also going to be joined here shortly from our flagship over on sportnarium.com/player. And our guest tonight, I got to be honest, he's one of the most exciting names I've had a chance to come on here and speak with me here on Sportzwire Radio. You're going to find out here shortly. He is an actor. He has been a champion. He has been a dominant force. No matter what company he has been in here, there's many familiar names that we've gotten a chance to speak with, that he's been in the ring with, and he certainly is going to be the talk of the town here, most notably in nonstop action wrestling. Because if you heard at the end of our show Tuesday night, where it was announced by the man behind Nonstop Action Wrestling, Mr. Joshua Snow, that we are going to have the first participant in the 8-person championship tournament there to crown our first ever champion. It was Connor Cage, and our guest here had a lot to say about it. We'll find out if he's spot on, but I'm telling you, he's going to be worth it here. Looking forward to this here. So, with further ado here on the Sports Report, the #1 global sports show pro wrestling star here, D.
Love that. Brilliant. Amazing.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, and no, we are not talking about Hulk Hogan's sidekick in the NWO Black and White in 1998. We are talking about a much more dominant, a much more bigger force here, live with us here. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited about this one because you're going to find out here over the next hour, hour and a half, whatever it is, why this man arguably should be a world champion in multiple companies. We're going to get to that, but obviously it's a tremendous honor to have you on here. Now, I'm going to get into your story. I'm going to get to everything else, but I have to get into it because it is the talk right now of the nonstop action wrestling universe. It is the talk of social media that last night, before we went off the air, which was Tuesday night, which last night it has been the talk of all social media, and the fact that Joshua Snow, our leader of nonstop action wrestling, announced the first participant of the 8-person tournament to crown the world-class champion here, the first ever champion of nonstop action wrestling at the upcoming Fire and Gold event, August the 13th. And it was announced that it was Connor Cage. And certainly it has taken the locker room, certainly by storm. Many people have had different opinions, and you were definitely one of those opinions that was certainly voicing that their displeasure and much, much more. And I want to ask your perspective on it now, Champ, because you're with us now here live on why it should have been you and your thoughts overall in the fact that the first person announced for the 8-person tournament coming up August the 13th, Fire and Gold, nonstop action wrestling, was the so-called Golden Boy, Connor Cage. Your turn now, disciple.
Wow. First of all, Tom, thanks for the introduction. Really, really good. Love that. Big fan of your work. Thanks for having me on. I'm going to have to try and calm myself down here because when I first found out that Connor Cage was the first man to be announced, I nearly spat my food out. Absolute joke of announcement. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the guy. He's about 3'6". He's a little midget. He doesn't even deserve to be in the ring. Okay, now I've been in NSAW. I've done 2 shows for them. Management have even personally handpicked me to come and help train them. And then what thanks do I get? I don't get announced in this tournament. But someone like Connor Cage, who's been doing it 10 minutes, not a chance. That don't swing with me. Not a chance. No way.
Now, let me ask you, it's a great point, because obviously for those that are watching and listening to this, they're the fans of professional wrestling, especially in the UK. You have been at this a long time. You have had a lot of success. You have been in the ring with a who's who of people. You have also been in main events. So you are a legitimate draw here. And I can certainly see those points from where you're coming from. And I have a comment from the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, and I'll get to that in a second. But, I mean, why do you think it was then that Connor Cage was announced? Is there something that he knows? Is there something as to why he's favored, let's say, in the eyes of management, and even, let's say, our guest that came on Tuesday night, Joshua Snow? Tell me why.
I mean, I've got no idea. Maybe he's rubbing people up the right way, if you get my drift.
Hmm.
Now listen, when it comes to wrestling, I put everything on the line. I put my heart and soul in what I do, and I don't care how much I hurt my opponent. At the end of the day, I go in and do what I'm meant to do, and that's beat people up and win. Simple as that. The thing is, with management at NSAW, they're all well and good giving out all these tips and saying how good their wrestlers are. If they had any sense, they would have announced me straight away, not someone like Conor Cage. And let me tell you something right now, Tom. If I am not one of those men, one of the 8 men in that tournament, there's going to be hell to pay. I promise you right now that I will make a statement that night. I will make a statement. I will make sure that I am entered into that tournament one way or another.
Well, don't you worry, because I'm sure you've heard some of the comments I've had to say over the past few days. I have definitely been in your corner, at the very least, to be in that tournament. So you definitely have my word that I think you should be in the tournament. I'm going to get to why I think you should be in the tournament in a second, but the Lawman Kyle Kennedy is with us. And, of course, the Lawman Kyle Kennedy has also had his own problems with management. Also, he is 1/3 of the society. He says here, Mr. Snow had the chance to make history, and he announces Conor Cage of all people. So it seems like you and the Lawman are on the same page right now on this one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Kyle Kennedy, society, they do their own thing. I do my own thing. I'm a lone wolf in this. I don't need anybody else. I am my own man. I am disciple. I am the disciple of professional wrestling. I do what I want when I want. So totally get what Mr. Kyle Kennedy's saying about management. I think they're a bit of a joke at the minute. So, yeah, I think some heads are going to roll if the right people aren't in this tournament.
Well, that cues the Judas Priest song, Heads Are Gonna Roll, because that was obviously famously what Rob Halford sang all those years ago. But we are certainly not here in the business of playing music right now. We are talking with pro wrestling star here, Disciple. And it's funny you said all those things, because that kind of cues back a little bit to what I think. Because from what I understand, again, I'm not a wrestling promoter, but I am in the radio business. I know what sells tickets to an extent. I know what people like. And right now, I look at you. Look at the shape that you're in. You're arguably in the best shape of anybody on the roster. I look at your experience. I look at your resume. And also, the most notable thing that a professional wrestler needs in order to draw is size. You have the size. You have the strength. So let me understand this correctly. I mean, Conor Cage, first guy announced. And we're going to get Conor's side of things. I always like to give people a shot. I don't want to make this about a personal thing toward Conor Cage. I don't want to do that. I'm not in the business of that. But what I am in the business of selling tickets and the business of getting more people to see and follow Nonstop Action Wrestling. And your resume, arguably, and I'm not just saying it because you're here, your resume is arguably the best of anybody on the entire roster right now. I would think if I'm starting a wrestling company and if I'm looking to build to somebody that could be at the very least in the discussion to hold the company's first ever championship, you're the guy I'm looking at right now.
No, I appreciate that, and I think you're absolutely right. When you go into a promotion, when you go into any show, you know, the champion is the best of the best. They represent that company. You know, that they are the people that you need to beat. Now, listen, I respect Conor Cage. He's got a big heart for a little guy, but does he deserve to be in that ring? Absolutely not. Does he deserve to be in the tournament? Absolutely not. You know, I've been in the ring, and I'm going to name drop here. I don't care. I'm going to name drop. I've been in the ring with Johnny Storm. I've been in the ring with James Mason. I've even been in the ring with Doug Williams. Now, I'm the guy that I promise you right now that if I get shunned from this tournament, well, disastrous.
Well, don't you worry, because to me right now, upcoming, there's 2 events that are coming up that I think you should be a huge part of. So let your heart not be troubled. I definitely think you should be in the tournament. And I'm objective. Listen, I always call it down the line. That's why people want to come on here on Sportzwire Radio. So I definitely think that you should be in the tournament. And another reason why I think you should be in the tournament, because the last time we saw you in the ring here for Nonstop Action Wrestling was at the Summertime Slaughterhouse, and you were in the ring with, speaking of guys you've been in the ring with in the past, an old foe, a familiar face, and Rex Savage. And the last I checked, Disciple, you got the job done and you beat him. So your resume right now, when it comes to those who should be in this tournament, I mean, second to none. I mean, talk about the last time we saw you in the ring for Nonstop Action Wrestling last month with a huge victory over an old rival, Rex Savage.
Do you know what? It was absolutely bittersweet. It was so good because I've been trying to get my hands on Rex for a long, long time. It had been 5 years since we last fought each other. And do you know what? At the start of the match, a normal match wasn't good enough for me. I didn't want a normal match. I didn't want a one-on-one rules. I wanted to throw all the rules out the door. So we had a street fight. And that was the only way that, in my eyes, I was going to finish the job. So I wanted to make sure that I hurt Rex. And do you know what? As you just said, I got the job done. I done what I said I was going to do. I was going to leave Rex laying on the floor at my boots, and that's exactly what I did because I choked him out.
Oh, you definitely did. And I almost have to ask you this question, and I do have a comment from Connor Cage I'm going to get to in a second. So Connor is definitely responded. I'll get to Connor in a second, but I find this so fascinating because you're in the ring with somebody that you've been in the ring with before, right? But you haven't faced him in 5 years. I mean, it's kind of, I'm trying to think if I've recalled an instance where somebody hasn't been in the ring with somebody in 5 years and gets that opportunity. I mean, in boxing, I remember it happened with Mike Tyson and Frank Bruno. It was about 6 years, and there were definitely instances. I mean, I guess you could say Tyson and Lewis because it was years back in the Olympics. But, I mean, in wrestling, this doesn't happen too often. I mean, did you ever expect to be in the ring with Rex Savage again? I mean, you've been doing this a while. I mean, walk me through what's going on your mind when it's announced that you're going to wrestle somebody you haven't wrestled in 5 years. What's that like?
Well, the thing is, what actually happened and the way that it panned out is that at Exordium, I was in the Battle Royal, Rex was in the Battle Royal, so we kind of butted heads a little bit there, and I think Rex slightly got the better of me and sort of blindsided me and managed to eliminate me from the Battle Royal. So, you know, turnabout's fair play, so I got Rex eliminated, and I thought, well, what better chance than NSAW, Summertime Slaughterhouse, to get this match sorted. So, you know, we got it done.
Well, you definitely did. You definitely got the job done. And I don't know if I should say this, but maybe hopefully not a 5-year wait to wrestle and beat Rex Savage again.
I am forward to smash his face in next time round.
Well, we'll definitely find out. And of course, the man certainly that has been the talk of Nonstop Action Wrestling, Connor Cage, is definitely here to comment and chime in. He says here, I've been in Nonstop Action Wrestling since day one. First there, last one to leave. Every time, nobody can doubt my dedication to this. Your reactions to that?
So he's talking about dedication there. Now, when I came up and did training, I got to say, he did have a bit of dedication. But did he keep trying? Did he get himself worked up in his head? Yeah, he did. And you know what? He's not quite there yet in the head. He hasn't got it. He's too tough on himself. And that's why he's not going to get anywhere far in this tournament. He doesn't deserve to be there. You can have heart, you can have determination, you can have dedication, you can have whatever it takes. You can have a pack of jelly in your bag for all I care. You are not deserving to be in that tournament, Connor. I don't care what you say, who you think you are, how good with management you are. It doesn't work. It doesn't shine with me, son.
So let me get this straight, because I had a reaction to that, but let me get this straight. You're saying that Connor Cage might be good with management, as that's to why they picked him. Is that clear?
Come on, you've seen the guy, Tom. You know,
I have. I've definitely seen the footage. I've seen his clips on social media. I've seen bits and pieces of him in the ring. I mean, certainly, I will say next week live on Sportzwire Radio, we're going to find out from Connor Cage. But let me throw something else out there. Now, I realize that I'm not the man behind Nonstop Action Wrestling, but I'm thinking about this right now, right? And I'm seeing that you're with us right now, Disciple. And I see the lawman Kyle Kennedy was with us, and he had his opinions, but I certainly have a different thought on where he should land in the tournament. But I do think that the lawman Kyle Kennedy should be in the tournament. Let me make that clear. Just like I think that you should be in the tournament. So let me throw this out there. And again, I have no idea. This is a shoot. This is whatever you want to call it, a pipe bomb. But let's say hypothetically, Disciple, the second person that was announced for the Nonstop Action Wrestling 8-person tournament to crown the company's first ever champion, August the 13th at Fire and Gold, was you. What would you say toward that?
Well, I would say that this interview has obviously had an effect on management, and they know what's right for them. They need to have the right man in that tournament. The thing is, we've discussed it just previously. Every company needs to have a respectable and a rightful champion, someone that can lead them going forward to push the business even further, to take them up to new heights. That's what Disciple does.
Well, you know what? Listen, I think about it. Listen, companies that started out a few years ago, and speaking of names and draws here, like Disciple, I mean, AEW's first champion, correct me if I'm wrong, was Chris Jericho. I mean, Chris Jericho had all that experience, all that tenure. I mean, I think about companies when TNA Impact Wrestling started. I mean, Jeff Jarrett was the man behind it. They went with a hired gun, a veteran hand. Obviously, well, his family ran the company, but he was still a notable name. And Disciple is a notable name as well, and he's definitely making a case that I think he could be in this tournament. I think he can win this tournament, just like I think the lawman Kyle Kennedy could win this tournament, and he is here. Thank you. Finally, someone with no bias. No, listen, we call it down the line here on Sportswire Radio, but this is also why you need to follow Nonstop Action Wrestling, NSAW official on Instagram. Also, like the Facebook page, Nonstop Action Wrestling. Also, Disciples page, like his page. Also, Disciple Wrestler on Instagram. Also, follow him on Facebook, because something tells me here, at the end of the day, today might be June 16th, but August 13th is going to come. It's going to come sooner rather than later, and something tells me here that Disciple is going to be in this tournament. Ladies and gentlemen, look at the size of this man. Look at the tattoos. We're going to get to some names of people that have come on this show that have been big, big names, big, big stars around the UK, and he's been in the ring with them. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He not only took them to the limit, he arguably beat some of those names that we've had. And you know what? I'm going to rattle them off. The Playboy Prince Lance Rivera, he's been in the ring with. He's been in the ring with the Ronin, Brian Aidenson. He's been in the ring with Bentley. I mean, it's a who's who of people that we know on Sportswire Radio, that I've gotten to know over the past several years. And he's been in the ring with him. He's here with us. We're going to definitely make his case here heard loud and clear on Sportswire Radio. And I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Disciple, I'll get to some more thoughts on the tournament in a second. I want to get your reactions to what Tommy Dillon had to say also about you in a second. But talk to me about Nonstop Action Wrestling, and how does it compare to maybe some other companies where you've basically held your own in?
Well, it's a new company starting up. I joined them at Exordium. That was my first show for them. And again, you know, I put myself out there to NSAW. I'd been watching them from afar, as I do with a lot of companies. And, you know, I felt that I could really add something to the company, and, you know, said to the management team that, you know, I feel like it could be a great benefit to the company and to the trainees, and help with training, which, you know, whether they like it or not, I came on board, and I showed the trainees how to wrestle and train the right way, and show them how real professional wrestling should be. And then it's been going on since then. So, yeah, I think it's been a positive step for NSAW bringing me in, and it's been positive for me that I can share my experience with these trainees.
Let me ask you a question, and I'll get to obviously more Nonstop Action Wrestling talk. I'll get to GT Ministries. I'll get to even some of the names that we mentioned here in a few minutes. But I feel like with an upstart company, and Tommy Dillon has chimed in here, which I'll get to. Everybody always wants to jump on here. Everybody wants to jump on, but I'll get to that in a second. But I kind of feel like this is important. And I asked this question to Tommy Dillon, and we had Old School MC2 on last month, and I feel like I asked him the same question. I'm going to ask you the same question. And with a young, up and started company like this one, and a roster that's relatively young in terms of wrestling experience, how important is it for yourself, and maybe even a guy like Wildcard Tommy Dillon, to maybe show these different up-and-coming wrestlers the ropes and the right way to go about doing things, and to be able to have the kind of success that, let's say, you've had, or even of late a wild card Tommy Dillon? How important is it for this company to have somebody like yourself here?
Well, the thing is, you know, experience in wrestling will go a long way. And one thing I've always been taught when I first started wrestling is to always have your ears open, make notes, get as much feedback as possible. And, you know, even now I'll have matches, and then I'll always speak to other people around. If they've watched the matches, I'll ask for feedback. I'll ask what they think about the matches, if there's anything I can improve. And I think that's one thing that some people nowadays don't necessarily do. I think that once they start doing shows, they're happy with with being on shows, and that they need to push themselves more and get that experience and find out, what can I do to be better? How did you find my match? And not be afraid to ask those questions. And, at the end of the day, I would rather someone give it to me straight and say, listen, what you did there, part of it was good, part of it not so good, but this is what you can do to be better. And that, for me, is how you evolve and how you become better in professional wrestling. And that will essentially give you longevity in the business.
It's funny you said that, and again, I'll get to some comments in a second, but I interviewed, this was got to be almost 2 years ago now, almost, I think right around like middle COVID period. I interviewed a guy, Chad Parham, that was in the ring with Jeff Hardy, and he was an extra at Impact. He might have had, I think, one scene or one match on then Velocity and WWE, and he had compared professional wrestling almost to an apprenticeship. He also was in the ring with AJ Styles back at NWA Wildside, a number of different guys, and Bill, I'm trying to think of the name it was. It was somebody else he had in there in NWA. But make a long story short, the point was that wrestling is an apprenticeship because you have to learn from somebody else. Even somebody like a Randy Orton, even somebody like a Cody Rhodes, they have to learn from somebody in order to be where they are. Do you see professional wrestling almost like an apprenticeship?
Absolutely. And I think you're always learning. You're never going to be the best you can be until... Well, you're never going to be that, but you've always got to keep learning. And for me, like I say, I always take a notepad and a pen, and I'll try and watch matches before me. I'll watch matches after me. I'll take tips. I'll look at, how I would improve stuff. And, especially with NSAW, Exordium, and SummerSlam Slaughterhouse, I'd want to watch the matches. And the first thing I would do after the matches, I would come and, congratulate the boys, but I'd also give them feedback and say, this is what you've done, maybe work on this a little bit. And, I think, like I say, I think people need to take that on, take that critiquing, if they want to do well in the business. And, like I say, I do it now after being in the business for 8-9 years, maybe a little bit longer. I still do it because at the end of the day, if I can't get better, then I'm not happy with what I'm doing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, I never understood how wrestlers would show up to a show or an event and just wrestle their match and leave the building. I always thought it was great that a Shawn Michaels would watch the entire show, regardless of what you thought of a Shawn Michaels, and he would give wrestlers their feedback. I always thought, to me, I would want to know what other people think of me. I would want to know so I can learn and improve to do better. I mean, I always thought it was also great when it came to WrestleMania 3 and Steamboat Savage. And Steamboat and Savage had a notebook. They were going back and forth with each other. They took every move and they wrote it on a pen and paper, like you just said. And that's how they came up with the match. I mean, so to me, those are no-brainers. But let me get to some comments. Let me get to the first one from Wildcard Tommy Dillon, who was with us Tuesday night, and he's got a couple things to say about you. So let's bring them onto the screen here. He says, "Hey there, big guy. I believe you, and I have a match in the pipeline. Any words, kind or otherwise, about that?" So you're on the spot here with Wildcard Tommy Dillon.
Listen, Tommy, we go back a few years. We've been in a ring on opposite sides in a tag match, but we've never had that one-on-one match, which is something we've both been fighting for a long time. I respect you. I respect the work that you've done. I respect how you wrestle. I respect you as a person, and I believe that if we had a match, a singles match, a one-on-one match, triple threat match, I think we'd tear the house down. I think it'd be an amazing match.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I mean, after all, I see these open challenges that Tommy Dillon's throwing in GTM. If Nonstop Action Wrestling doesn't want to do it, I'm sure that Tommy Dillon's going to have an open challenge one of these days. And I'm going to get to GTM in a little while for sure. And James Westney has been with us here. Obviously, somebody else we know very well. He says, Disciple not being in the tournament for NSAWB. I'm going to go even further. It would be an injustice. To me, listen, people want to talk about fake news. People want to talk about elections being fake and all those different things. Right now, I'm going to go on the record here. And I hope that management doesn't want to not do any more coverage with us here in Sportzwire Radio. But I'm going to go on the record as the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here at Sportzwire Radio. And I'm not doing it for my health. I'm not doing it to make friends. But right now, if Disciple is not in that tournament, August the 13th, at Fire and Gold, to crown the company's first champion, that will be an injustice. An injustice. Not even a crime. It will be an injustice.
Totally agree with you. Absolutely. And James Wesley, you know, it is a crime. It is an injustice. And what everyone seems to forget is that how long I've been around, and they've just got to believe and disciple. I am the man to take NSAW to the exciting heights that it can be.
Look at this man, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the man. Look at the size of the man. Look at his athleticism. I was watching some of his matches here. We've obviously seen him in GTM. How could you not have this man in the tournament? I mean, he's been a champion. He's been an actor. We'll get into that. I mean, he's been in the ring with named Jesse Jones and certainly Johnny Storm and Bentley. We're going to get into the Ronin, Brian Adenson, the Playboy Prince, Lance Rivera. I mean, this is the guy that could very well potentially take nonstop action wrestling to new heights. We're going to certainly find out and see what happens. But speaking of things on a lighter note, before I get into some more wrestling coverage, you have done some acting, and I always find that so fascinating when you have wrestlers that kind of cross over into that. And how'd you get into acting?
It actually came through wrestling.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Someone that came to watch the show was a producer going to be a producer on the Fighting With My Family film.
Sure.
I went to audition for bits of it. However, I couldn't make the filming dates, so I didn't do that. However, I got into an agency and I managed to get a couple of little jobs here and there on the side. And then obviously the most noticeable one, I suppose, would be the Tolkien film that myself and Lance Rivera were in as soldiers, and we were used as part of the stunt team on that. And obviously our wrestling background certainly attributed to, you know, the stuff that we were doing there.
Do you feel like in some ways that there's similarities in terms of, how can I put it, maybe in terms of just speaking in front of people, or maybe just the overall moves? I mean, do you find similarities, or it's a totally different dynamic?
I think it's exactly the same. You know, professional wrestling is exactly the same. You know, you're a person, you're a character, you're trying to be someone, you're doing something. And I think us as professional wrestlers, we should be comfortable talking in a setting, in a whether it be an interview or in an audition or whatever it might be. Professional wrestling has definitely helped me get into that field.
No question about it. I mean, listen, it's almost become second nature. You see all the different wrestlers that have crossed over. You think about it like 30 years ago, and when Hulk Hogan was doing kind of, I guess you say those like B-movie film, whether it was Suburban Commando, No Holds Barred, it was like kind of like a joke almost. But now, I mean, it's almost like it's normal. John Cena, Batista, The Rock, and I do have a comment which is going to kind of be a funny segue into kind of the Playboy Prince Lance Rivera, and an individual that we may or may not know on Sportzwire Radio says, would you ever do a buddy cop movie with the Playboy Prince Lance Rivera, a la Lethal Weapon, 48 Hours? I'll throw Rush Hour in there also, because Rush Hour is a little bit more recent. So, would you do a cop movie with the Playboy Prince Lance Rivera?
Absolutely. Listen, me and Lance, we go back a long, long way. I've got a lot of time for Lance, got a lot of respect for him. We've been in countless matches together. Sometimes we get on, sometimes we don't. We've travelled over the country together. We're due to be travelling very soon to a number of shows together. And a few years back, we did a road trip down south, down to Portsmouth. We did a show down there together, and we did I'd say an interview segment in the car whilst we were driving. And that was is a very, very funny video, if I say so myself. And I suppose that's a glimpse into what me and Lance are like together.
Well, something tells me here that would be an intriguing video to see one of these days. And certainly the Playboy Prince Lance Rivera has been with us a couple of times. Very, very entertaining guy. And very quickly, I wanted to ask you, obviously, I'm sure you had caught the news last month that he was the Wrestle Island World Champion, I guess, for about like 5 minutes. I mean, I guess between him and Yokozuna's reign, I don't know which was a longer reign, but what did you think of that, where he was able to get the Wrestle Island World Championship for whatever it was worth?
listen, that guy deserves everything that comes his way. He deserves to reach the moon and back. I will fully expect him to be in the big leagues within the next few years. He's definitely going to be up there. By far, one of the most entertaining wrestlers I've ever seen, or one of the best sellers that I've ever seen. His knowledge is sound, and I think we've come up in the business together. We spent a lot of years together, and he deserves to be champion in every company that he goes to, because he's just an absolute star.
Oh, absolutely, no question about it. And I've always said this here over the past year. I feel like the two guys that I feel like are at least going to break out and go somewhere big is him and 2-Bit. I feel like with those two guys, I mean, I've had them both on several times, and I feel like those are the guys that are going to definitely do that. Obviously, aside from yourself, because, well, you've been in acting, so you've already broke out anyway. But I wanted to ask you, because I had read this somewhere, you'd actually been in the ring with Ricky Knight. Any memories of that? Because I almost have to ask, because you mentioned fighting with my family, and everybody knows the Knight family, especially here in the UK. Leave aside the one that everybody knows in Paige, but I was curious when I had heard you speak about that also. What was that like, being in the ring with a Ricky Knight?
It was great. I was really looking forward to it. Obviously, they've got a huge reputation within the UK, within wrestling as well. So it was an honor to be in the ring with him. He was again, he's going on at the minute to do really great things, and again, he's one of those people that I believe is going to be in the big leagues very soon. The match, I believe, that we had was very, very good. It was well received by the crowd, and it was an absolute pleasure. And we did say we do need another match somewhere down the line. So hopefully, fingers crossed that we get that chance again.
Well, I definitely love to see it, and I've got a comment in here from somebody that also kind of segues into senior match against Bentley and the Playboy Prince Lance Rivera. Where else could I find more of your matches?
On YouTube. I haven't got a YouTube channel yet. However, it is in the process of being sorted. There's plenty of matches to be shared out. I can share links on my social media, on Facebook and on Instagram. Plenty of matches to look through. Obviously, my match with Johnny Storm, which was down in Camberley for Tap Out Wrestling, which is a great match. For those that know, obviously, Johnny Storm has been a staple in British wrestling for a good 10, 15 years now, well, maybe even longer. Really great guy. And again, he was one of those ones that, I wanted some information and I wanted to get some feedback on how I did. And, I received nothing but praise from Johnny Storm, and, getting some information and some feedback from a guy like Johnny Storm, who's well respected within the business, was a massive positive for me and a massive confidence boost that, I'm doing good.
Oh, you're definitely doing more than good here, and I've got some more comments, and I've got another great comment here from Scott Slim, and he says, is there anyone you haven't faced before that you would like to? That's a great question. I feel like with you, and you've had some big matches, some main events. So is there anyone that you haven't faced before that you'd like to?
Wild card Tommy Dillon. I'm going to say it straight away. Obviously, we've just had that conversation. Definitely want to match against him. There is someone that I spent a lot of time with previously in a previous company. Someone called Matt Fox, the fantastic.
Oh, listen. He's come up. In fact, he came up because at Kingdom of Wrestling, he was in a triple threat match with somebody that I have had on countless times, the unforgettable Andre Decker, and also a guy that has been in my stream so many times, and I lost count. And he's also taken applications for the Wrecking Crew, and that's Davey Getsky. So Matt Fox, know him very, 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 very well. Yeah, why haven't you guys faced off? I mean, you've been doing this a while. I would have thought you guys would have crossed paths by now.
You would think so. We did once a show in Chester a few years back, but we were in a tag team match. But I really would love a one-on-one match with Matt Fox. Again, if the stars aligned, maybe. And another one, when I made my debut at Wrestle Island, I was in a triple threat match with Terry Izzett and Drew Parker. Obviously, Drew Parker's went on to Japan and has done some great and crazy things in Japan. So I'd love to have a match against him. Again, a one-on-one match this time.
Well, I like to make a suggestion. This is a cheap plug because obviously he's going to be on here right afterwards. And I think an excellent match for you and an excellent opponent you haven't faced off with before is the natural-born fighter RP Davies. I mean, he was just in the ring with Anthony Ogogo last week. So to me, you'd be perfect with RPD. I mean, would you want to face him?
Absolutely, and do you know what? The RPD is one of the names that I've heard around for quite a while now. I've heard he's been doing great things, and I've been seeing on social media he's doing great things. Obviously, he won the Wrestle Island Battle Royal to become the number one contender. So he's definitely on the radar, and he's definitely someone that I feel like I could have a good scrap with.
Oh, I think he would be more than a good scrap, and we are definitely having a great time, and we definitely don't want to scrap with Disciple, actor, champion, pro wrestling star here with Nonstop Action Wrestling. And if you like what you hear and you want to get more matches from him, you want to see all the great things he's been a part of, Disciple Wrestler on Instagram. Also, Facebook Disciple Wrestler. Also, NSAW Official on Instagram. Nonstop Action Wrestling also on Facebook here. It is a tremendous honor to have him here. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportzwire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, I highly encourage you go to sportnarium.com/player, where we are also on now live, but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You listen to all of our great content. And also, you can like us on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, and we will have on the aforementioned natural-born fighter RP Davies right after our interview with Disciple. Got a lot to get through here with Disciple first, but certainly an honor to have Disciple on. And speaking of Portsmouth, I have to give a plug because June the 30th, around this time, 9 o'clock British Standard Time, I'm going to be speaking with a world champion boxer from Portsmouth. That's right, Paul Pierce. I'm really excited about this because Paul Pierce, who's fought on Fight TV, is going to be fighting live July the 23rd. He is the unified WBL and EBL European champion. He's also the PBC International champion. He is going to be in the house with us June the 30th, just a few short weeks before his big fight on July the 23rd, live for the PBC and WBU titles. Really, really excited about this. And I want to thank also Trevor Lakey from obviously Cestus Promotions. Of course, he was the man that ran Sportswire Radio and Sportnarium Radio before we existed, and we took over the reins here. And if you like what you hear from Cestus Events, I want everybody to go to Cestus Events on Twitter, cestus.co.uk for more information. It'll be homecoming for Portsmouth. You're going to see world titles, international titles, British titles, and our boy, Paul Pierce, he's coming home. Just like Disciple is one of the most famous people from Portsmouth, Paul Pierce is right there. And if you like what you hear from Paul Pierce, you like what you want to see from him in the ring, Pierce87 on Instagram. I'm telling you, you're going to be really excited. If you like what we do with professional wrestling, you're going to like Paul Pierce. I was speaking with Paul on WhatsApp yesterday and really, really excited about this. So that'll be for us on June the 30th, 9 p.m. British Standard Time. So very, very excited about that. We'll also have a few more announcements in a little while here when it comes to some more talent coming on. But in the meantime, we are here right now with pro wrestling star Disciple, who arguably very well could be the next Nonstop Action Wrestling world-class champion, the company's first ever world champion. But I want to ask you, Disciple, about somebody that you were in the ring with in a main event for GT Ministries a few months ago. And that's a guy that's been a frequent guest of Sportswire Radio, and he's become a favorite of mine. I have to say, RPD's probably been with me the most in terms of appearances, but Bentley, I got a feeling, is probably going to be the next one. He's going to be the guy. You mentioned RPD and him breaking through, your success, but I feel like right now Bentley is on the cusp of just breaking. You and him had a match. That was his first ever main event in his career. I expect many more main events. He's had a few main events more since, and that was really one of the more enjoyable matches, I had to say, that I've watched. Not just because you're here with us, but because I got to watch it because we do a lot of GT Ministries coverage. And I wanted to ask you one, are we going to get a rematch one of these days between you and Bentley or what?
You know what? I would absolutely love a rematch because obviously it wasn't the outcome that I hoped for or that I wanted. I was chosen as a replacement for Sean Only on that show. You know what? I had a great match with Bentley, great wrestler. Definitely took me all the way, and unfortunately, he got me with the kick out of nowhere, and he got the pin. So I definitely need to get some revenge very soon, I think.
No, you definitely do. And obviously, listen, Sean Only couldn't handle him. We saw what he's done in Bolton Town Wrestling. Obviously, Jack Johnson, he had arguably beat for the GT Ministries World Championship. So something tells me here that you and Bentley would be a match that I would put a lot of pounds on. So listen, I don't know if it's going to happen in Nonstop Action Wrestling. I know Bentley has made his declarations clear that he would have some interest. I mean, maybe I should throw it out here. You know what? Forget about me putting my pounds out there. Bentley has come on here in different streams and said he's had some interest in being in this tournament. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Snow didn't specify it was only Nonstop Action Wrestling tournament. I mean, forget about Connor Cage right now, right? Listen, you and Bentley again? I mean, would you want Bentley again in the tournament? I mean, what would you think about something like that?
Listen, if me and Bentley are going to face in that tournament, the only match that is right for that will be for the final, for the belt, for the championship. That's the only way that will be money.
I'll tell you what, forget about Roman and Brock. Forget about right now Austin Theory and Bobby Lashley. Forget about any wrestler you think about right now. Jacob Fatu and MLW right now. Forget about Hangman Page, CM Punk, if he's hurt, he's not hurt. Chris Jericho and hair versus hair matches. If you put right now Bentley and Disciple in a main event for a championship, I guarantee you Nonstop Action Wrestling's followers, they're going to shoot up through the moon. Because anytime I talk Bentley, all of a sudden people get talking. So Joshua Snow, management, Richard Knight, I don't know who's listening. I know somebody will listen to this. That's a match for the championship that I would definitely want to see. And I think a lot of people would want to see that. But speaking of GT Ministries, and if I recall correctly, we're going to get to the Rumble in a second that GT Ministries was going to have. But also, you were supposed to be actually competing against when Mr. Angel was the champion back in September of last year. I mean, I was disappointed because, listen, you could have been with us right now if you were in the ring with Mr. Angel in that triple threat match that we were supposed to see down at the Fountains Church in Bradford. You very well right now could be holding that GT Ministries World Championship, because if you were there, I think you would have beat Mr. Angel. Forget about Jack Johnson and Sulphur. They would have been talking about Portsmouth and Disciple.
You're damn right, and unfortunately, I picked up a slight knock, so I couldn't attend that match. But I know for a fact that if I was there in that triple threat match, you know, I've got a lot of time for Gareth Angel, great wrestler, great person. I've wrestled for GT Ministries before that, obviously before my match with Bentley. I've done a show for them in front of 400 people in Leeds. Brilliant show, brilliant match. And listen, I watch GT Ministries a lot. I watch their matches on YouTube. I watch the shows on YouTube. And yeah, I think I definitely would have had Gareth Angel's number in that match. And, you know, if I became a regular at GT Ministries, there's no doubt that I'd definitely work my way to the top.
Well, don't you worry, because this is why I brought GT Ministries. We always have a plan here on Sportzwire Radio, because I know Mr. Angel. And I know that Mr. Angel, he listens. He watches these shows because you know why? Management all the time gives me messages. So I know Mr. Angel. I've gotten to know him over the past several months. And I know that Mr. Angel, he likes to hear himself. He likes to hear GT Ministries mentioned. So I got a plan. I came up with this plan very nicely because July the 16th is coming up. And we broke it on Sportswire Radio on Tuesday with Mr. Snow in the fact that we get 5 participants from Nonstop Action Wrestling who could be in that 30-person Rumble to determine the number 1 contender to Jack Johnson's championship coming up in September at the Fountains Church in Bradford. So I'm going on the spot here because you know what? We talked about Nonstop Action Wrestling's August 13th Fire and Gold, putting you in that tournament. I mean, I don't know who gets to pick. I don't know if it's management at GTM. I don't know if it's Mr. Snow. I don't know if it's a combination. But in my mind, Disciple, there cannot be a 30-person Rumble at the Fountains Church on July the 16th without Disciple. What's your thoughts?
Now, I've got a history with Rumbles. See, a few years ago, I became the first ever king of Runcorn, the first ever king of Runcorn wrestling. Now, I lasted near on 40 minutes in 28-degree heat to win that match, to win that Rumble. So I've got a history of winning Rumbles. I mentioned Doug Williams earlier, one of the best British wrestlers on the scene in the country.
Absolutely.
I've been in the Battle Royal with Doug Williams, and you know what? I eliminated him. So if anyone's going to be a best pick for a Battle Royal, Royal Rumble, whatever you want to call it, Disciple's your man.
I'll tell you what. I mean, listen, I don't even know if it could be possible, but you know what? We spoke about Bentley. We could see you in Bentley Square. I forget. Listen, think about the possibilities. Look at this man tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this man. Look at the size of this man. Look at his athleticism. You watch his matches, what he's able to do to his opponents. Look at what he does outside the ring. I mean, to me, listen, you were supposed to be in the ring with Mr. Angel. Listen, we put you in. Forget about Bentley for a second. Mr. Angel and you in the Rumble July the 16th, Mr. Angel, he may not last that long. Forget about him and the Angels army. Forget about him and Mr. Johnson. I mean, I think at the end of the day, July 16th, if I were to put a Rumble together, 30-person Rumble, who would be at the top of the list of guys I think could win it? It's the man right here.
Gareth Angel, Disciple, Heaven, Hell, match made in heaven in my eyes.
I'll tell you what, and it was supposed to happen last year. And you know it. The world knows it. GT Ministries knows it. The Fountains Church knows it. Bradford knows it. That if Disciple was in that ring, Mr. Angel might have had the match that he would have never had with anybody else. He very well would have lost that title. You can make a strong case about that, ladies and gentlemen, here tonight on Sportzwire Radio. So I would like to see it happen. I would like to see this man here in the Rumble. I don't know who makes the call. We weren't quite clear. We're expecting to hear more about that between now and July the 16th. We're expecting to have talent from GT Ministries on between now and the 16th. Obviously, we're going to have an announcement for more Nonstop Action wrestling talent coming on here for next week's show. But I know at the end of the day, and I know that Mr. Angel is a businessman. I know that he's done a lot in the community. I know he's done, obviously, the works of Jesus Christ, all that stuff. But I know deep down, Mr. Angel is like Disciple. He's a businessman. He knows what sells tickets. He knows what puts butts in the seat at the Fountains Church. He knows what brings people to the table. And it would be this man right here in that tournament. And we've got another comment from the lawman Kyle Kennedy. I think he is hearing what we had to say. So let me get to the lawman Kyle Kennedy. The lawman Kyle Kennedy says here, 5 names from the Nonstop Action Wrestling in the GTM Rumble. I'm taking one of those spots. I promise that. I mean, or are you taking another one of those spots? Would that be fair to say? I would hope.
Listen, he can take Kyle Kennedy, he can take what he wants. As long as I know that I'm in that Rumble. And the thing is, July 16th, I'm actually free.
Oh, you heard it here first. Disciple has cleared his schedule. Listen, Disciple could have had calls, well, not from Vince McMahon right now because he has settlements with a woman, but he could have had calls from Tony Khan. He could have had calls from Billy Corgan. He could have had calls from Anthem Entertainment over at Impact. He could have had calls from anybody you think in the world. But he's left his schedule clear because he's waiting to be available. You know what? Look at the size of this man. He may just even show up randomly. He might just show up and just come out to the Fountains Church and enter himself. I mean, think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Who's going to stop this man? Who's going to stop him from entering that tournament and entering and winning that tournament? I mean, at the end of the day, he might just appear in the tournament and there's really nothing nobody can do about it.
You're damn right. I do what I want when I want. If I'm free that day and I haven't been contacted, I might just have to take a trip up to Bradford.
And I'm going to say another thing here, and the lawman Kyle Kenny has another comment. I'm going to say another thing here. Tommy Dillon, because he also wrestles in GT Ministries, I think he doesn't count as one of the 5 names for nonstop action wrestlers because he wrestles actively in both. So that means that, listen, Mr. Angel, management, Mr. Snow, they can't take the cheap way out on this one. He's one of the GTM members also. So to me, that doesn't count. I want 5 names distinctively from nonstop action wrestling. The Lawman Kyle Kennedy is 1. Disciple would be 2. And the Lawman Kyle Kennedy, apparently, he's going to try and fight the law like the Clash did. We'll see if he's going to win because he says here it would be a pleasure to throw you out to win it, big man. Ooh, big words here on Sportzwire Radio from the Lawman Kyle Kennedy.
I love it when rookies get confident.
Now, I would have to say, with an asterisk, now I certainly know your experience is far greater than the Lawman Kyle Kennedy's experience, but the Lawman Kyle Kennedy has been going around throughout the professional wrestling world, and he has talked about the fact he's undefeated. He's the next Goldberg. He's the next Ryback. He's the next Ultimate Warrior. I mean, he is right now, as far as I could think of, the only man right now undefeated in pro wrestling. You have any thoughts on that?
Things change.
Ooh.
Records are there to be broken.
That might be true. I mean, that certainly is a fair point because records are broken because all those names we mentioned, they all wound up losing. I mean, they all did wind up losing a match. So, I mean, that's all is fair.
Kyle Kennedy, he's been in the ring with a number of people, but he's not been in the ring with Disciple.
No, I'll tell you what, he has not been in the ring with Disciple, and that would certainly be another match that I would love to see happen. Certainly after Kyle Kennedy made short work of Champ Rogers, the Super Dad bod and the Patriarch, I certainly think that Disciple would not be the same, but we'll see. Connor Cage is back in the house once again. Your favorite target here tonight says, I've been in a Rumble in nonstop action wrestling in a Battle Royal in Bolton Town Wrestling. HM will be at GTM, be the 3rd. Who knows? Well, HM will GTM. I don't know what HM means, but I guess I'm assuming that Connor Cage is saying he'd like to be available. Is that why I'm reading this? Can I get a clarification if you don't mind?
Well, the guy doesn't even know how to write, so.
I know I'm stupid. I know I clearly am dumb at times, but I really don't know what he means. I don't know what he means, but I have a good one here from an individual that's also come on here quite a bit and a frequent fan, and he says, who are your wrestling inspirations?
When I first started wrestling, it was Hulk Hogan. He was a big inspiration of mine. I think it was just purely the sheer entertainment value he gave, and that he was this superhuman and just untouchable character. I think when I got into wrestling myself, I like the older style, the old school sort of style of wrestling. Arn Anderson, obviously that's where my salvation.
Yep.
That's where I pulled that from. And then most recently, I suppose, over the last sort of 10, 15 years or so, when I was watching the Attitude Era, Triple H, I think his ring work was very, again, methodical when he was, when he's breaking down an opponent. And I tend to sort of go with that sort of style in my matches.
Yeah, I could definitely see those influences, and I'll get to a few things in a second, but I could definitely see from watching your in-ring work and obviously seeing you here in GTM with Bentley a few months back, you are definitely one of those wrestlers. I kind of feel like also, I'll even throw another one out there. I see a little bit of Psycho Sid in you in terms of just the fact that you're very methodical in the ring. You're very, not psychotic quite as like Sid was, but you definitely do have that certain approach where I really think you kind of work your opponent down. You wear them down a bit. You get them into a position where the longer you go with your opponent's not going to last with you at all. So I could definitely see those influences, and I'll make you chuckle. I know you're not going to do an album like Hulk Hogan did, Hulk Hogan and the Wrestling Boot Band, because I'm going to admit this here. In fact, some of the guys will probably really appreciate this, but I know somewhere I actually have the Hulk Hogan and the Wrestling Boot Band CD. I bought it years back. I have it somewhere, and I'll make everybody laugh here. Years ago, Hulk Hogan had claimed, I don't know how true this is or not, and it's definitely PG. He actually claimed he tried out to be a member of Metallica when he was in the middle of Hulkamania, like the peak of it. He claimed that when it was their bass player had died back in Cliff Burton, this is 1986 or so. He claimed that right afterwards, because he was actually a bass player. He was a very, very established bass player. In fact, he played, I think, on the first WrestleMania album they had way back in the 80s. And he claimed he tried out for Metallica. And you're like, was he lying? Is it true? Is it not? But that was my little fun Hulk Hogan notes. So I thought maybe somebody would have appreciated that. And we have here young Horace, who gives us the eyeballs. So what do you mean by the eyeballs when it comes to Disciple?
I mean, I've seen a bit of young Horace's work. Obviously, Exordium is in a triple threat match against one of my guys, Lance Rivera. So I was watching that match very intently, and I've seen a bit of his work at UKW as well. So, yeah, my eyes are on him as well.
I want to ask you this question, and I'm glad you brought that up. And I know that we've spoke about this off the air and different wrestling companies, but I feel like that you would be a great asset to some other companies. I mean, I obviously seen you a little bit in GTM, seen you in some other companies, but I mean, would you like to wrestle for other companies? Are there other companies out there specifically that you would like to wrestle for?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, when I first sort of broke into the business, I wanted to get about, and I was getting bookings all over the country. I was going up to Leeds and Yorkshire way, and then I was going down to I've done a couple of shows in Cornwall and down in Portsmouth, and all over the country really. And it's only sort of been the last couple of years with COVID and a few other bits that sort of crept in that sort of I suppose my head wasn't in the game. I feel like I'm back and I'm ready now to get back into it, doing what I do best, and that's throwing people around, giving them spine busters left, right, and centre. But yeah, no, UK wrestling I've done a bit of work before. Definitely want to get back in there with those guys. Obviously, there's Kingdom of Wrestling.
Oh, I know Kingdom very well. Glad you brought up the Kingdom. We definitely know who's behind that. I definitely know them very well.
Okay, so I've been watching those very intently as well on their socials, Facebook and Instagram and stuff. Then you got Superstar Pro Wrestling. There's Royal Imperial Wrestling, which I believe we're in conversations with at the minute, which is in Cardiff in Wales. We're in conversations to go over there. So I'm actively, putting the feelers out there. The Disciple is well and truly back in wrestling again.
Oh, you are definitely back. You are bigger and better than ever. So definitely, ladies and gentlemen, if you are a wrestling promoter out there, and I won't name names who I actually just messaged while we're on the air, and I said to this promoter, I said, I got this guy on. He's in phenomenal shape. He's been all over the place. He just wrestled Bentley in a main event. His name's Disciple. Check this guy out. I'm telling you, check his stuff out. You definitely want to do that. Disciple Wrestler on Instagram, Facebook Disciple. Also, get in touch with him. We got another about 20 or 25 minutes or so here with Disciple. And I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportzwire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And we're also going to break it here next Thursday live, 8 p.m. British Standard Time. We're going to get Connor Cage's side of the story. We're going to hear what he has to say. Something tells me Disciple's going to be listening very intently with that. I think the entire Nonstop Action Wrestling roster is going to be listening intently to that. So something tells me here, we'll see what the man who's the quote-unquote golden boy, as some have said, will have to say about all the different things we've heard from here, Disciple and the Lawman Kyle Kennedy and Champ Rogers and Wildcard Tommy Dillon and Goliath and everybody else. So definitely tune into that here. And I got to ask you, because Portsmouth, we mentioned Paul Pierce, world champion boxers coming on. I mean, what is Portsmouth like? I mean, what should I know about Portsmouth that I don't know about it? What should I keep in mind? What is Portsmouth like? Because it's you and Paul Pierce right now are like the two famous sons right now. The two favorite sons of Portsmouth are Disciple and Paul Pierce. So what should I know about Portsmouth coming up here for June the 30th?
Listen, Portsmouth is my hometown. I don't think there's anything quite like your hometown. I live in Cheshire at the minute. Every time I go back down to Portsmouth, you just know when you're home. You get that feeling. It just gives you that feeling that you're back. It's a great city. It's right on the seafront, right on the south coast. It's an amazing town. The people are amazing. It's just incredible, and I love going back. I love going back seeing my family, and it's just incredible. I love it.
Oh, I think all these towns that we speak about here in the UK over the past, I guess, year and a half, I'm doing this when it comes to our international coverage. I think about Morecambe. I think about Barrow. I think about Chorley. I think about Portsmouth. I think about Yorkshire. I think about all these wonderful towns. I mean, they're just, I'll even throw in there Salford, certainly Bradford. Can never forget about Bradford. But I think about all these great little towns, and they're just, to me, really where wrestling is just at home. To me, this is where wrestling lives. People ask me all the time, and they say, "Oh, what wrestling do you watch?" And I say, "Well, I watch the LWF. I watch NSAW, GTM, Bolton Town, KOW, Odyssey Pro Wrestling. I mean, CCW, I got to throw in there. I mean, all these companies, obviously, what you're doing in terms of different companies you've been at, this is really, to me, where wrestling lives, because I feel like in a lot of ways, the territories still live here in the UK. I really feel like the territory scene is alive and well. It's like the way it was, let's say, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think some people can say that the market is a bit oversaturated at the minute, but I don't think that's the case. There's no such thing as too many wrestling shows. I think as a wrestler, you want to try and perform on as many shows as possible to get the experience, get the show experience, work with different guys, work with different companies that maybe run things in a different way. So essentially, as a wrestler, you want to get around as much as possible. You want to go to all these different places, and that's where you can really, like you say, own your skill and own the craft of being a professional wrestler, and that's what it's all about.
Listen, let your heart not be troubled, disciple, and anybody else who's watching this. Crypto right now is the oversaturated market because I'm holding crypto still. So that's really the oversaturated market. So I'm not going to ask anybody if they're holding crypto still. I'm not going to ask anybody what their mutual fund looks like. I'm not going to ask those questions. That's where things are oversaturated right now. The professional wrestling scene here in the UK is alive and well. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you this question, Disciple, because he has become a favorite of mine. You've been in the ring with him quite a bit in the past, and you look, he had a little bit more hair in his head back the last time I saw you in the ring with him. That is the Ronin Brian Nadenson. He's going to be back on here in the next few weeks because he is a huge part of things over at KOW Knockout Wrestling, a company that we've done a lot of work with here on Sportzwire Radio. And I've got to ask you, Disciple, because you've been in the ring with him quite a bit. You fought him for championships. I mean, talk to me about the Ronin Brian Nadenson, because I'm going to make sure he hears this. I'm going to ask him conversely about you. So you get the first shot on the Ronin Brian Nadenson.
Listen, again, another great guy, someone that I've spent a lot of time with, a lot of years with. We've had, I can't even think how many matches it is. We've had lots of matches together. He's won some, I've won some. He's probably got the better of me on the majority of wins.
Don't say that. You're live. You tell us that you got the better of it than the majority. Why would you say that just now?
Listen, I'm an honest guy. Brian Nadenson, got a lot of time for him. He's a great wrestler. Again, he's another one like Lance that want to try and do better all the time, that want to learn more and do more. And it's great to see these guys that I've spent a lot of time with and over the last few years, getting out to more places and doing more and seeing them grow and progress and become the wrestlers that they're becoming. And he's a brilliant wrestler. And I'd definitely love to smack him in the face again.
I love to see that. I would love to see that. I tell you what, I mean, any promoter out there, and I'll add, don't you worry, I'm going to ask him the same question because he's become a fan of mine. He likes, another one who likes to hear himself. So I can promise you, that would be a match that I would put a lot of pounds up for. I don't know if they want to do it in KOW. I don't know if they want to do it in NSAW or GTM, but that would be a match I would definitely put some pounds on. And listen, if he could wrestle 2 different shows in one day, he could definitely find the time to be in the ring here with Disciple. And I wanted to ask you a question about a match that I happened to watch before we came on the air, and I think it kind of is a hallmark of who you are as a competitor. And that was the match you had a while back with Jesse Jones. And I kind of feel like in a lot of ways that might have been the signature match of your career in some ways. Not so much in the outcome. I'm not focused on wins and losses, but in terms of what we can expect in the ring from Disciple, where you give out that punishment, but you also do very well in luring your opponents into you and doing in terms of the back and forth and just what we kind of expect and what our audience here that has now gotten the chance to hear from you can expect in the ring. Walk me through that match and what do you feel when I say those things?
It was, I remember the match very, very well. A very fun match of mine. It was that was actually my debut for Pro Wrestling Subjective, which was down in Birmingham. It was my debut match. It was the main event for the Pro Wrestling Subjective Championship. We were told to go out and have a good 30-minute match and just tear the house down, really. And as always, that's exactly what I try and do. And again, as we talked about my style and how I wrestle, part of that was breaking him down. And Jesse, again, I've never met him before that match, and we had I think we had good chemistry. I think there were times in the match where I knew where it was going to go and what we wanted to do. And I thank you for your kind words, and I think that it is a very good signature of what I do as a performer.
No question about it, and I definitely expect many more of those things ahead. And let me ask you this question, and I want to ask it while we have a few minutes more with you. And right afterwards, if you like what you hear from Disciple, I'll be speaking with the natural born fighter, RP Davies. So let's see how my voice holds up for that, because with RPD, I feel like I always have to outdo myself with the intros. So I'm told that's the favorite part of these. But let me ask you this question, because we spoke a lot about the Nonstop Action Wrestling and the World Class Championship Tournament, August the 13th, Fire and Gold. And I know you've been a champion before. I know you've had a lot of success. You've been in main events. But I want to ask you on a personal level, August the 13th, let's say you're in that tournament. I'm going to work my hardest to make your case clear. If management doesn't want to hear it tonight, that's their business, but I'm going to do my best. I have Connor Cage next week. I'll still say you should be in that tournament. I don't care who else I got to talk to. I'll make it clear. We'll also post it on Instagram as well. But I want to ask you on a personal level, what would it mean to you if you were the first ever Nonstop Action Wrestling world-class champion?
Well, firstly, can I just say, I know that you've mentioned about management of NSAW. Usually they're quick to jump on these interviews with you and the NSAW stars. My point earlier was that, maybe there is a bit of favoritism within the NSAW management towards Connor being into this. Where are they now? But that aside, I think it would be a great honor. I think when you become the first something, that it's special, especially in a growing company as well. And as a champion, you need to do and represent the brand, yes, but I suppose represent yourself. And I think, again, with my experience, the matches I've been in, what I can bring to the table, one, it would be an honor for me, and two, I think it would be a very long-lasting championship reign.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you one thing. If Disciple wins this championship August the 13th, who on the roster could beat him? Who's in the shape of this man? Who could really go toe-to-toe with this man? He makes a great point. Look at what he did to Rex Savage recently. Listen, he and Bentley, arguably, he could have beat Bentley. He had Bentley beat. Listen, he's the guy that took Bentley to the limit here. Who right now in Nonstop Action Wrestling? The Lordman Kyle Kennedy, we like him too. But I don't know if the Lordman Kyle Kennedy could beat him. Tommy Dillon, he might be a wild card, but I don't know if he's the guy that could end the reign of Disciple. But conversely, I want to ask you the same question about GTM, July the 16th. And Young Horace says, I'd give Disciple a good go. Have you seen Disciple's size? We can ask you, Young Horace, when you come on one day, but look at this man's size. If he holds the championship, if I were a betting man, he could have a title reign longer than Roman Reigns. Stay tuned for that. But July the 16th, Fountain Church, GTM will have their own Rumble to crown the number one contender to Jack Johnson's championship upcoming in September. I give you this opportunity. What would you want to say to anybody who has the power in deciding who's in that Rumble?
Well, I've said it before. My experience in Rumbles is second to none. I'm free on July 16th. Whether they like it or not, I might just be in Bradford for that event. And listen, if anyone's going to take any power, you behold the power of Disciple.
I'll tell you what, and this is not Hulk Hogan's sidekick in the NWO Black and White. This man's stronger, he's bigger, he's more powerful, and he knows his way around the ring. So certainly, this is not the Disciple you were thinking of in WCW back in 1998. Because I actually did have to bring it up, because I actually still have, because I know you're more of an old school fan compared to some of these newer companies and newer shows. I actually still have the WCW NWO Tops trading cards. They made a trading card set here. I don't know if they had it in the UK, but I actually still have the complete set, and I have the Disciples card, and you aren't Disciple. I had to throw that out there. I don't know if you've been asked that before, but I actually still have that trading card of Disciple in the NWO Black and White. And you are not Disciple of the NWO Black and White, because you were a lot more dominant. What was that?
I'm absolutely not. I am the Disciple, the one and only Disciple.
Absolutely. I would definitely want to be this Disciple rather than that Disciple. But I feel like I've got to give you the floor on this before we get to RPD here in about 10 minutes or so. And I thank everybody, obviously, for being with us here tonight. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportzwire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Alongside me is pro wrestling star here, Disciple, who again you can follow on Instagram at Disciple Wrestler and also Facebook at Disciple Wrestler for his page as well. But I'd like to give you the floor directly to address Connor Cage, because I know that there's obviously been some back and forth here, and you're with us tonight. I'll hear from Connor Cage next week, but I want to give you the floor directly. Anything that you'd like to say personally to Connor Cage, anything that's on your mind, I'm giving you the floor.
Well, if I'm going to be honest, let's be honest. Put Connor Cage next to me. There's only one obvious winner. I don't know what NSAW management are thinking of putting a young boy, a rookie, in that tournament. Now, he can have the heart of a champion. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you go with experience. You want to go with someone that can represent your brand as a champion, as a fighting champion, as a brilliant champion to push to the next level. Is that Connor Cage? Listen, I've seen the guy train. He's okay. Is he great? Absolutely not. Not yet anyway. He can be. I'll give the guy a few years. But is he at my level? No chance.
Ladies and gentlemen, extremely strong words here tonight. Right to the point. Connor Cage, you're going to get your chance next week with us live to respond. We'll certainly see what Connor Cage has to say. He is certainly, as some have claimed, the golden boy of nonstop action wrestling. I know Dante Okara has had his thoughts also about it. Certainly Gung Ho Muttley's had his thoughts about it. But we'll get Connor Cage also his thoughts on it. But I wanted to ask you a couple quick questions here before we get closing thoughts. And I wanted to throw this out to you. And I don't know how you're going to take this on a personal level or not, because I know you are the big bad Disciple. But when I interviewed Bentley, and this was about right around the time you and him were in the ring in GTM, he had mentioned that you were going to be his first main event of his career. He's had a few main events since then, and I actually asked Bentley before we went on the air, and I asked him to confirm us. I said, Bentley, I'm having Disciple, and I remember when we had you on the first time back in February, you were going to be the first main event of his career, and he confirmed that. So if I were to tell you that the first main event of Bentley's career was with you at GT Ministries back in February, what does that mean to you?
To be honest, you wouldn't think that it was his best main event. He brought everything to the table. He was a great competitor to be against, and like I say, for me, unfortunately, he got the win. He done well, and I can see him. I think from what I've seen of Bentley on social media and what he's been doing since, I think, and I'm not being big-headed here, maybe that match with me in the main event propelled him to that next level of what he's doing now.
I completely agree. And it's funny you said that, because obviously we've become very familiar with Bentley, and we've watched his matches in GTM and obviously seen what he's done here in Bolton Town Wrestling. But I really feel like in a lot of ways, his match, that win he had against you, in a lot of ways, it did cement him, because look at what he's done since in the last 3 or 4 months. I mean, you've seen him in Bolton Town with Rarebit, Sean only getting a victory over, even the match with Jack Johnson. I mean, listen, he's done things. He had wins in triple threat matches at GTM. I mean, he's really done a number of different things here that he's going on. In a lot of ways, that match he had against you, I do think kind of put him on that path, on that trajectory. We'll see, though. I would still love to see you and him in the ring one more time, because something tells me here you could definitely even the score against him. And I would love to see that here. And I would love to see you and him compete somewhere. I don't know where it could be, but it's got to be somewhere. But I wanted to ask you this question, and I know it's kind of a tough one because you've had a lot of moments in your career, but is there 1 or 2 moments in your career that stands out most?
I think my first heavyweight championship win was a really big deal for me. It was probably 8 months after I came out of a tag team and stopped being a tag team wrestler and went into singles. Won the heavyweight championship. That was a big deal for me. Winning the big rumble out of 30 guys that were in the ring, and that was very special for me. But yeah, definitely the heavyweight championship, and although it was a short reign, it was very special.
Is that something that you think about? Because I always ask this question to people. We had Reynaldo on late last year, right after he won the LWF championship, and he hadn't won a world title in about 10 years. So let's hope you don't go that long, but certainly he hadn't won a championship in about 10 years. Tommy Dillon was with us Tuesday night, and he hadn't won a championship in 5 years. I mean, is that something that still kind of drives you a little bit and say, you know what, I want that championship again. I want a little bit more of a longer run, because yes, you got it. And being a world champion, you remember it till the day you die, but you might want more out of it, more satisfaction. I mean, is that something that you think about and fuels you maybe to continue to do what you do, and getting another crack at that run?
Yeah, of course. And it's something that unfortunately was forced upon me to lose the title so quick. And it's definitely something that pushes me to, because listen, if you're going into wrestling and you're going into companies, you don't, as a wrestler personally, I don't want to just be the first match on. I don't want to be a mid-carder. I want to be champion. I want to represent that brand. I want to be the best person that company has got. And I'm driving for it. I'm going all the way. And that's why NSAW, I'm going to be in that tournament. I'm going to be the first champion that they have. GTM, I'm going to be in the Rumble. Do you know what? I'm going to go against Jack Johnson for the title. That's all I'm aiming for. That's all I'm going for. My goal isn't just to be another number. My goal is to be champion everywhere I go.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, look at the size of this man. He's definitely, I think, going to end up with a world championship once again. And listen, again, he's definitely not going to have to wait as long as Reynaldo. Listen, Reynaldo spoke about it with us. He had some issues. He had some other things come up. And he kind of said what you said. Basically, his first run as a world champion, unfortunately, it wasn't the run that he'd hoped for, and it was something he thought about for a long time. And something tells me, though, Disciple, the shape he's in, the size he's in, he ain't Reynaldo. He's going to not be waiting much longer, because something tells me come August the 13th, and certainly come September, he could be holding 2 world championships. So something tells me here that he's going to have a very, 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 very big 2022. But I want to give you this last question here before I get closing thoughts here. It's been a tremendous honor to have you, and I appreciate the time you've given us here. And we'd love to have you anytime you want to talk here on Sportzwire Radio with us. But what do you want to say to anybody that's watching, listening to us, whether it's fans, whether it's competitors of yours, whether it's foes, whether it's promoters of yours, whether it's companies, friends, anybody that you want to address to? Is there anything that you want to say to anyone here directly tonight?
I suppose it's to promoters out there, to companies, put your belief in people. There's a lot of wrestlers going around and trying to get themselves out, and like I say, I've been quite fortunate that wrestled a lot of people, and I've managed to network quite a bit with people. And, you know, I think sometimes all people need is just that one chance to get in and just prove that they're worthy of it, that they're worthy of that shot to do what they do best. And I think, that's my message, is just to give people a shot, let them prove how good they are.
Absolutely. And I think the moral of the story is networking. And people ask me all the time, and they say, oh, well, how have you been able to do this for 3.5 years and grow your audience? And I said, well, it was networking. It was being able to have had so many great supporters of mine in my local community, and working here back home with college sports and college athletics. And of course, obviously with everybody here internationally with professional wrestling. That's how you got to do it. In order to survive in anything, in order to be able to grow, you've got to network. And Disciple, ladies and gentlemen, here tonight is one of those examples of somebody who is networked. He is a champion. He will be a champion come August the 13th. He will win that Rumble should he be in it July the 16th. And he said he's free. So he's entering regardless. So if Mr. Angel, management, Mr. Snow don't put him in, he's just coming to the Fountains Church. I don't think anybody's going to stop him there, to say the least. It has been a tremendous honor to have you here, my friend. I want to give you the floor. Any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to plug, share, say? And I can't thank you enough. And don't be a stranger. I want to see you on here more often. I want to see good things from the future from you. I'm going to have Brian Adenson on in a couple weeks before the next KOW show. I'm going to definitely ask him a lot about you. The Playboy Prince, Lance Rivera, is definitely a friend. I'm going to definitely ask him. And listen, Bentley's coming back, so you know I'm going to be asking Bentley about you, and RPD's coming on. I'm going to make sure I bring you up to him for sure. So I turn it over to you. Anything you want to plug, share? I can't thank you enough, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me on. Really appreciate the time to give me this platform to give this information out and to speak to you. It's been great. And all my socials are available: Facebook, Instagram. I'll put match links up there for people to watch. And you know, it's great to always get feedback. So any wrestlers that are watching the links, feel free to give me feedback. It's what I'm all about. And if any promoters are out there and you know you want to look at the videos and you feel like I'm good for your company, drop me a message. I can free up anytime I want. I've got the flexibility to do that, and I'm always ready for a fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, we know a lot of promoters on Sportswire Radio. I'm not going to name their names. They know who they are. Look at this man right now. You want to sell tickets? You want to add some more pounds to your bottom line? This is the guy. And go over to Disciple Wrestler. Go over to his page on Facebook, NSAW Official, GT Ministries UK. Anywhere else, book this man. I'm telling you, you won't regret it. And your locker room, your roster, well, just get out of his way, because he's going to beat the hell out of your entire roster. So let's make it happen. My friend, I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to speaking with you soon, and definitely anything I can do for you, you know where to find me, and we're looking forward to having you back on here soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Cheers, Tom.
As we're here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show with pro wrestling star here, As I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Stay tuned here, because we are about to bring on the natural-born fighter, RP Davies, who will speak about his own situations upcoming at Odyssey Pro Wrestling, KOW, Wrestle Island, TNT. And something tells me here Disciple will be a great opponent of his, as we were just with pro wrestling star here, Disciple, who very well should be a part of the upcoming August the 13th show for Nonstop Action Wrestling Fire and Gold 8-person tournament for the World Class Championship, and July 16th, GT Ministries 30-person Rumble. Thank you, Disciple. We will be with you soon. We will now bring on the natural-born fighter, RP Davies, on Sportswire Radio. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we've got him here. We got to do it because we're on the spot here on Sportswire Radio tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, you might have just heard Disciple, but without further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show, pro wrestling star here from Odyssey Pro Wrestling, KOW, Wrestle Island, TNT, and much, much more. That's RPD, RPD, RPD. And that's the natural born fighter, RP Davies. My friend, long time no speak.
Somehow you are getting better at that. It's getting. I don't know how you top yourself every single time, but
you know what? I don't know either. Listen, in fact, I almost had a heart attack last night because I on my job in real life, aside from the radio, the person that I was working with, I literally yelled at them so loud on the phone. I thought I was speaking with Andre Decker. That's how loud I was. So certainly, we're glad we're okay. We're glad with you, my friend. A lot to get into here. Obviously, a big show coming up here for Odyssey Pro Wrestling this Saturday. Mutiny, you are going to be a huge part of that. And obviously, everybody, if you like what you hear from Odyssey Pro Wrestling, follow them on Twitter, OPW_UK. Odyssey Pro Wrestling also on Instagram and Facebook, because the natural born fighter, RP Davies, is going to be a part of a match that I feel like we've been speaking about, like, I don't know, for like 20, 30 years at this point between you and the unforgettable Andre Decker. But set the tables for us, because I feel like this has been a long time coming. I'm going to get to Anthony Ogogo in a second. I'm going to get to KOW. But I feel like this is going to be the night that's going to finally settle the score between you and Andre Decker. And give us your thoughts on how you feel before 48 hours from Showtime in Morecambe.
Excited, Tom. I'm very, very excited. This is like you. I mean, me and you have been talking about this particular feud and this match for nearly over a year. I think it is now, since my debut.
Yeah, last summer, right around this time. Yep.
When I debuted at Odyssey, which is about a year now, he has been involved in my business from day one. It's continued and continued. I thought I'd have got rid of him by now, but I haven't. But this is the day, and I'm excited because this is the day I finally put him to bed. And believe me when I tell you, I am going to put this to bed.
You say you're excited, though, but in some ways, are you excited as you were in a going into a boxing match, a title fight? Because I know that there isn't a championship on the line, but everybody knows in Morecambe, you right now arguably could be the world champion of Odyssey Pro Wrestling. So are you trying to contain the excitement just enough to be able to focus on the task at hand, which is finally getting one over on the unforgettable Andre Decker?
Leading right to the last show, Tom, I as I've said to you many times, you know, my focus was winning the Odyssey Pro Wrestling Championship, and that is still something that's in my mind. It's still something I want to do, because I've said from day one, walking into Odyssey, what I do, I'm there to fight for the fans of Odyssey Pro Wrestling, you know, and it's because of them that I'm here, and it's because of them that the way that they react to me. It makes me, you know, I'm very, very, very grateful for that opportunity to do that. And they've given me this second lease of life, really, after my boxing career. So, you know, I've been able to close the door on my boxing career. Now I had a great career. I enjoyed it, and I've got very fond memories of it. But now I am a professional wrestler, and I've been a professional wrestler for nearly 3 years. And it's particularly in the last year, since I've been speaking to you, Tom, you know, things have been put into fifth gear, really.
Listen, everywhere I go, every time I do a show, I always bring your name up. And every wrestler I have on, it doesn't matter what company, goes, oh, you know RPD? Oh, you know the natural born fighter, RP Davies? I mean, you have, it exploded. I would even make the case, and we'll get to Andre Decker in a second. I want to get to the Cumbrian Outlaw, Rick Marcus, and his comments from us last month about, obviously, the match you guys had at KOW. I will get to all of that in a second. But I feel like in a lot of ways now, your wrestling career has exceeded your boxing career, because in sheer popularity, sheer recognition, and you were a champion in boxing. We've covered it here when we were the old Sportnarium days. I really feel like, RPD, that your wrestling career already in just 3 years exceeded your boxing career.
Yeah, well, there is an argument for it, and I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that, because I've considered myself a boxer and a fighter my whole life. And I, as you know, Tom, I put everything into my boxing career, and I had a good career. Sadly, it got cut shorter than I would have liked. But like I say, I got back up and got back on the horse, and professional wrestling found me. It found me. I was always a fan, but I got the opportunity to do it. I've thrown myself into it head first, like I do anything that I'm involved in. But I've said to you many times, it saved me. Pro wrestling saved me. Pro wrestling and its fans, they've given me something that I can never really repay. And if people wonder why I'm so passionate about this and why I train so hard, why I try so hard, why I'm trying to progress as quick as I am, it's because I kind of owe it to that group of people that allowed me to have a stage again and have a platform again. Because I thought that had finished for me. I thought that had finished for me 5 years ago. But as I say, things have moved on now, and I consider myself a professional wrestler. I work, in a lot of big companies certainly in the northwest of England, and I like to think I'm pushing my way forward all the time, and I'm doing that for me. I am doing that for me, but I'm doing that for the people that have allowed me to do it. And I am. That is a cliche thing to say, but I'm a man for the people. I'm doing this for the fans of pro wrestling. They give me something back, and because of that, I am going to give them something back.
Well, you are definitely, as they would say after hearing these things, the real people's champion. Unlike, say, the man that currently holds the Odyssey Pro Wrestling Championship, that is Mr. Ryan Hunter. And I'm going to definitely get to him. I'm going to get to a lot about Odyssey Pro Wrestling here in a second, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to promote something you're wearing, because somebody we know very well, this is the first time in a while I've got a chance to promote him, because you're wearing a 1310 shirt. So promote the shirt, because I got to say Josh does a phenomenal job. He's another guy that is blown up over the past year. And promote this gear you're wearing right now, because he does a phenomenal job with everything he does.
Well, Josh and 1310 Apparel, they're a company that kind of really support British professional wrestling. They always have. They support and promote and sponsor many different shows and wrestlers across the country. But what I can say about Josh is when I first got into the pro wrestling game, Josh approached me pretty quickly. Before really there was any sort of fanfare behind me or anything like that. And he asked me whether I'd be interested in him promoting me, and obviously I jumped on board that, and I remember things like that, Tom. Just like you. Because bear in mind, a year ago, although I'd made a somewhat of a name for myself, I was still lockdown had happened and everything like that.
I remember speaking to you January of last year. I still tell the story all the time, and I remember speaking with you. It was on a Monday evening, and it was like in January. We all had nothing to do, and it was just. It was just like, it was sad. It was honestly like, in some ways, it was just like terrible, honestly.
Yeah, it was. And like I said, I built up a little bit of momentum in my first, I think, 11 months of wrestling, and then lockdown had happened and shut me off. And to be fair, I was still an unknown quantity when you approached me. And it's very similar to Josh. I remember people who are good to me. And I promised you then a year ago I will come good. I said I will come good, and I will. When I'm allowed to, when the lockdowns end and wrestling returns, I will make my name across, certainly British wrestling, and I believe I have. And I've got to keep working. I've got to keep pushing. Of course I do, and I'm far from the finished article, but I've now got into a position a year later where I can give back to people like yourself, Tom, who believed in me from day one, to people like Josh who believed in me from day one. When I can promote Josh on 1310 Apparel, I will do, because he was there for me when nobody else was. So
Josh is a great guy, and Josh legitimately supports professional wrestling here in the UK. He is the man. He has always been a supporter of ours, and I want to make sure everybody follows 1310 Apparel. That is 1310 Apparel on Instagram, 1310 APP on Twitter, and we are speaking with the natural born fighter RP Davies, who you can also follow, RPD Fighter, also on Twitter. Also follow him on Instagram at r.p.davis. Also Facebook as well, because look at this guy. He is definitely going to be, he's already big, but he's going to be even bigger. If you thought Disciple was bigger, we had on just before, the natural born fighter, RP Davies, is going to be even bigger, if not already. But I'll get to Odyssey, I'll get to KOW, but I have to ask the question that has been on the minds of everybody in the professional wrestling world, because you were in the ring with a guy that even my friends and everybody else here in New York and the United States know. That is, of course, Anthony Ogogo. A guy got a lot of similarities like you do, obviously. Boxing champion turned wrestling star, and it has been the talk of the professional wrestling. Although, to be fair, everything about you, at least I find, is the talk of professional wrestling, at least here in the UK. But you've got to talk to me about what it was like being in the ring with Anthony Ogogo.
It was great. It was great. That came about through TNT, which I've spoke to you about before.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I work for TNT and Jay Apter, and Jay's been phenomenal with me from the end of last year, really. And basically, what happened was an opportunity came up for Anthony Ogogo to come onto a TNT show in Liverpool, and he needed an opponent. He did an open challenge, and I got a call from Jay pretty quickly asking me whether, because of obviously our similarities within coming from boxing, coming from that world to transitioning over to the world of professional wrestling, would I be interested in being that opponent? And it took me all of about half a second to answer yes.
I would think so, right? I wouldn't even think you would took that long.
No. And don't get me wrong, Tom. I massively respect Anthony Ogogo. I respected him when he was a boxer. I thought he was a great boxer, and obviously he won the bronze Olympic medal. And I watched that on TV. And yeah, obviously, someone who I looked up to back in my boxing days. But it's been amazing to see what he's done globally, and he's working for AEW and whatnot now. And I saw his feud when Cody Rhodes was there and whatnot.
I remember watching it on Wednesday night on TNT here in America. And Anthony Ogogo, who was obviously Cody Rhodes' guy at one time, I remember it very well.
Yeah, and obviously Anthony Ogogo's got a bigger status than me. Certainly when he started. I mean, when you walk into the game with an Olympic medal with you. It certainly helps. I've had to build up from scratch a little bit more from that, and obviously do a little bit more kind of dingy, smaller venues at first, and work.
Hey, they're still great places. Let's definitely.
No. That's what makes me who I am. It's the opposite. I want to do it that way. I want to do it that way because that's what makes me closer to the fans that I have built. Obviously in England. And no, I'm just happy. I'm happy with how it's worked out, and I thought it was a good kind of a good mix because you had the star power of Anthony Ogogo, who is worldwide, and you also had me, and that's not to say I had star power, but I've built my own name up in the country. People know. They know who I am, and it was a fight a lot of people wanted to see, and they got to see it, and I'm happy about that.
And I definitely want to see it again. I'll tell you that much here, ladies and gentlemen, here on Sportzwire Radio, because Anthony Ogogo and the natural born fighter RP Davies, I'd love to see that here in the United States. I'd love to see that frankly anywhere.
Partner, she's doing a little dance here.
Oh, how you doing? Great to meet you finally. Obviously, definitely. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for allowing the natural born fighter RP Davies to be with us. So certainly,
doing like a funky chicken dance there next to me, so I had to try and capture that for you.
Hey, well, you know what? I appreciate that. Listen, we certainly appreciate the fact that the missus has allowed you to be with us here for a little while. Certainly, anytime you get with us. But I want to go back over to Odyssey Pro Wrestling. I'll get to KOW. I'll get to now. I see your little daughter here. Also, say hello to your little daughter. But I do want to bring up Odyssey Pro Wrestling again in the fact that you most recently had an interaction with Chris Brooker, who to me is kind of like maybe a B-level comic, a bad comedian. I mean, almost he's got like the Rick Marcus fake beard on. I mean, there's a lot of things I could say about Chris Brooker that I won't say here on the air, but I saw that you and Mr. Brooker had a little video that's been on the...
his hat is the most offensive thing about Chris Brooker. That
Well, the
hat,
hat reminded me of the hat that Stephanie McMahon wore in the McMahon-Helmsley administration.
like a frisbee when I see it.
Yeah, that hat definitely looks like 2000 esque on him, which I didn't quite really get.
Yeah.
But hey, that's his clothing decisions. That's his wardrobe. But talk to me about that video there where Mr. Brooker, it seemed like he tried to maybe get into your head a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing with Chris is he's become co-general manager with.
Yes. Oh, we're well aware. We're well aware.
And he's also and has done from the start. He's been the ringleader, if you will, of the Spotlight, which is the group that I am now in direct confrontation with, because I've always had a problem with Decker. Decker kind of got himself involved with Brooker, and at first I didn't really see much problem in it, and then Reese and Rogan joined. We know what them two boys are.
Oh my God.
They are absolute animals. I don't like him, but it'd be very disrespectful of me to not appreciate how dangerous them two are. So yeah, they've teamed up in a very, very, very dangerous group there. Decker, Reese and Rogan, and Chris Brooker is kind of like the brains, because I'm not having it. Decker's got any brains whatsoever. So he's kind of take over. He's got power. He's got power, Brooker, now, and he's got half the company. And then, as you knew, the last show, they made the power play, and the power play was by getting Ryan Hunter on board with them. And yeah, they did it in a very sneaky way. They did it in a way that, I don't think anybody, I certainly wasn't expecting, and I know the fans of Odyssey Pro Wrestling wasn't expecting. And now it's become my job. At Odyssey to extinguish the Spotlight in totality, like that. The whole lot of them are having it now, because what they think they got away with it. They haven't got away with it. All they've done is piss me off.
See, I'm glad you brought that up, and Taylor Truth is with us, and obviously, thank you, Taylor, for tuning in. But I want to ask you this question on the Spotlight, because I feel like this is a constant question I asked, and I asked Rick this question when Rick came on last month, because he's going to obviously be competing against Ryan Hunter for the Odyssey Pro Wrestling World Championship, and obviously, Ryan Hunter now is also a member of the Spotlight. But are you concerned, though, Saturday night in Morecambe about the numbers game being against you? Is that something that is concerning to you at all? I mean, you're going to get Decker, but I'm sure Reese and Rogan are going to find their way into this. I mean, what's your thoughts on the numbers game here right now?
Obviously, as a strategist, I've got to keep my eyes on all of them now. I know that they come in as a pack. They're like hyenas. They're going to come as a pack. But I kind of want them to. You know me, Tom.
But why though? If it's 4-on-1, let's say if Ryan Hunter's not doing anything before his match, it's 4-on-1.
Yeah, and that is unfair. But I like to think I'm more than one. I like to think
I understand that.
And when I've got Rick with me, I certainly think we're more than one. So I listen. They need to start worrying about me, and this is the truth. They need to start worrying about me. It isn't me that needs to worry about them. They need to start worrying about me, because believe me, Tom, I am coming for them. What they've done, what they did, they took my chance away of being a champion. Something you know how hard I've worked for.
Well, you talked about that last year we had you on. You talked about the fact, even with Born Ready, that you wanted to be the Odyssey Pro Wrestling World Champion. Listen, I've had you on, 8, 9 times at this point. It always comes up here, and I got a comment that says the best way to deal with a pack is to take them out in a calculated way. But we're only, 48 hours between now and that. I don't know how you do that, but I'll get to Decker in a second, because I've always got a lot to say about the unforgettable Andre Decker.
I agree with Taylor there. He is right. Obviously, maybe not to storm into them would be stupid, because they are dangerous. But part one of the plan comes on Saturday night, and I will take Andre Decker out. He's the first part of the puzzle. once I get rid of Andre Decker, because Saturday feels like it's a weird night for me, really, because it feels like the end of a journey and the beginning of a new one all at the same time. Like me and Decker have been feuding now for a year, and I need to put this to the end. I need to end it either way. I need to find out who the better man is. I know who the better man is, and we're going to find out on Saturday night. But I'm going to put that to bed. I'm going to close that chapter. But when I close that chapter, the new chapter opens immediately, and that is the rest of them.
All right, let me ask you then this question, because you bring up some great points. And again, we're here with the natural born fighter, RP Davies. And thank you to everybody who's tuning in here live with us tonight, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. We're also live here right now on Roku on the Northeast Streaming Sports channel. So thank you to that new audience also here on our flagship, sportnerdm.com/player. I'm the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportzwire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And then I have to ask you, I know you were just in the ring with Anthony Ogogo. I know that you've been in the ring with some big names, Sona Durst and everything else, but I feel like in a lot of ways, what I'm about to tell you, I feel like the path that you're going to take in Odyssey Pro Wrestling going forward, whether it's the rest of 2022 and beyond, is going to be decided Saturday night between you and Andre Decker, depending on the outcome of the match. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's fair, yeah. I think that's fair, because if I fail on Saturday, if I fail in what I'm setting out to do, if I fail on the first hurdle, it's not looking good, is it? It's not looking good. But Tom, I will not fail on the first hurdle. I will not fail. Andre Decker belongs to me, and on Saturday night, I'm going to prove it.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, these are very, very strong words here. And if you also want to come out and hang out at obviously Odyssey Pro Wrestling August and June. Also, we have great events upcoming here. So these are things that you want to do here. And if you want to buy a ticket, because there might still be a few tickets available, OPW_UK. And you can go to the link tree for Odyssey Pro Wrestling. And they've even got a Patreon page. So you know what? There's things you can vote upon. There's definitely things that you can look at as a fan that you can get involved. Odyssey Pro Wrestling really does a great job in terms of getting their fans involved and those who support Odyssey Pro Wrestling. Also, tickets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Odyssey Pro Wrestling is even on TikTok. And I also have to give a huge happy birthday, because today it is Odyssey Pro Wrestling General Manager Ethan Edwards' birthday. So happy birthday, Ethan. Thank you very much for your support. And anything you want to wish Ethan Edwards for when it comes to his birthday, and now he celebrates a big day here for him? Anything you want to say?
Ethan's always been absolutely great with me since I started, and he's fair. He's fair, unlike Chris. He's fair. He's actually given me opportunities that, by the way, I had no more chance of winning than anybody else in that match. I just happened to win them matches. But you know, happy birthday, Ethan. Long may it continue. I'd much prefer you to be full GM than half GM, but. Leave that with me, Ethan, because by the time I'm done with the spotlight, I think you'll have the full-time job back.
Well, we'll certainly find out here. We'll certainly look forward to more things here when it comes to Odyssey Pro Wrestling. Family-friendly pro wrestling like no other when it comes to Odyssey Pro Wrestling. And there are tickets available still in odysseyprowrestling.co.uk/shop. So listen, get a shirt like the Natural Born Fighter RP Davies. Get a ticket. VIPs available. I mean, there's definitely a lot to offer when it comes to Odyssey Pro Wrestling. And I also want to make sure I support and thank Odyssey Pro Wrestling, because it was about a year and a half ago when the management, the people behind Odyssey Pro Wrestling, they know who they are, said, you know what, Tom? I want to go take a liking to your program here on Sportswire Radio. I like what you do, and would you want to work together? And I can't thank them enough. Simon Hill's with us. Thank you, Simon, for your support. He says we all prefer that for sure. Simon, I'll definitely get to you. I apologize. We haven't got a chance to get to you on the air. We will definitely make that happen. I promise you within the next few weeks.
Simon's a good guy.
No, and Simon's working on his own body. I mean, we talk about your physique. We talk about Disciples' physique. I mean, I'm definitely, I'd be terrified to step next to Simon Hill one of these days. Simon's definitely not only killing it on the mic, he's killing it in the gym right now.
Yeah, he's an army. He looks great. But Si's one of the good guys of British wrestling.
Simon's definitely on the Rick Marcus plan. That's what I know. He's definitely on. the Rick Marcus plan. But speaking of Rick Marcus, yeah, go ahead. Jump in. What were you going to say?
He's born ready. He's born ready.
Well, are you guys taking applications? Are you guys taking new members? Are you guys looking for that?
Not really. But Simon. If there was anyone getting in the club, Simon could be the man. He could be the man.
Well, he looks a little bit. Simon Hill looks a little bit like he could be actually somebody that would fit in Born Ready these days.
There you go.
I don't know if last year I would have said that, but last year, looking at the shape he's in, I'd say, you know what, he might have a shot. And he says, next member, sign me up. There you go. Listen, if you take an application,
honorary member, Simon.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'll make you chuckle because you're an old school wrestling fan like I am. He'll definitely do a better job when the time that Mean Gene Okerlund was a tag team partner of Hulk Hogan's way back in the rock and wrestling era. I'll guarantee you, looking at Simon's physique and his shape, he'll do a much better job than when Mean Gene did when he was across the apron from the Hulkster back in, I guess it was 87. But I do want to ask you about the Cumbrian Outlaw Rick Marcus, and I realize our time is precious, so I want to do as best I can to get as many comments as I can in from different people and from you as well. But Rick Marcus talked a lot about the match he had at KOW with you, and we felt like in a lot of ways it was the passing of the torch, and it was very emotional for a lot of people. Lucy Simons, who is obviously there, she's going to be with us here for sure after the match we're going to have here with the entire card in June, KOW Meltdown. And I wanted to ask you, now that you get a chance to maybe respond to some of the things that the Cumbrian Outlaw Rick Marcus had to say about you in that match you guys had at KOW and Redemption. And give me your thoughts on that match and what it meant to you in terms of maybe your overall career and also your status in KOW.
Really important, Tom. I mean, I've said it and I've said it and I've said it. You know, the love I have for Rick Marcus. He's my friend. He's my brother. He's someone who I trust and someone who I've grown very, very close to over the last few years. And without a doubt, certainly one of the most important friends I've ever made in life. Never mind, obviously just professional wrestling. Now that being said, I think he's a phenomenal competitor. He has always felt that I am, and that's why we came together as a team. And I believe, I think we are and will always be a great team together. But with any great team of competitors, sometimes you have to clash. And luckily for the KOW fans, they got to see that. And it was a match kind of built around respect anyway, because I didn't go in with any sort of cocky attitude or bad attitude or bad intention.
You never go in with that. When have you gone into anything, whether you were a boxer or a wrestler, with a cocky or a bad attitude? Knowing you as long as I've known you, when have you done that?
No, maybe not. But particularly, maybe you're right. But particularly with Rick, I just wanted to test myself against him. He's someone who I respect so highly, and has helped me He's helped me adapt from a striker to a wrestler, and he's helped me in my training and whatnot. So it was definitely a test, and not only that, I was kind of fighting him on his home turf there as well, because
which is so funny that you said that, because I'm sure you're aware for all those years at Cloud9 in the lounge, they weren't fans of the Cumbrian Outlaw Rick Marcus. That was a little bit of a weird environment there that night.
It was, and I know the reputation he built there, and I mean his ledger there speaks for itself. He won everything worth winning, but as I've always said, I've come to KOW now as well, and I do nothing to be second. That when I arrive anywhere, it's to be. I'm aiming for the top spot always, and that match got put together, and as much as I love Rick, and I do. I wanted to be the winner. I wanted to make a statement myself that I'm there to win titles and I'm there to be, the top dog. And I think as the match was great, and we both really enjoyed it. We both pushed ourselves to the limit, and fortunately I came out on top on this occasion, which I think puts me in really good stead going forward at KOW now. But like I say, nothing but respect for Rick, because he's my boy, isn't he? He is my boy.
Listen, I could certainly see that, and he feels the same way about you. But What was that moment like where we saw Commissioner Steele come out with the three of you? I mean, it was almost kind of like in one of those, it was kind of like a passing of the torch thing where there was almost everything that Rick and him went through was almost like, I guess, old wounds had been healed in some sense. I mean, walk me through like after the match and just everything and taking that all in. What was that like?
Yeah, it was surreal really because, like I say, as long as I've known Rick, I've never known him at KOW, and KOW is new to me. And what a fantastic setup they've got there, by the way. And great. It's a great company. The fans are phenomenal.
Love KOW. Love KOW.
Yeah, the fans are great. The fans are great, and they've talked to me straight away. And again, you know me. As soon as that happens, I feel I have to perform for them, and I have to be what they want me to be for them. So I have been trying, and like I say, that when that match ended, I didn't want to kind of celebrate too much because although I'd won, it was kind of a bittersweet moment there because I knew how much Rick meant to that company, and I knew how much, even though they hated him for years, I knew them fans respected Rick. I knew they did. So I kind of got out of there quite quick because I thought it was important for him to have his moment with them. If that, he says that could be his last time there. So if that is the case, he doesn't want me spoiling it by being in there trying to hog any sort of limelight. So I got out of there and I let him have his moment. Sheriff Steele came out and they had their moment, which I know was important to that fan base. And yeah, I just think it felt like a special night. It felt for numerous reasons, for what I was able to do, but for also how Rick was able to kind of close the book on his career there on KOW.
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. And I think, again, and I said this with Rick, and I'll say this with you. When I think about the Mount Rushmore of KOW, undoubtedly, Rick is on there. Certainly, for sure. Whether it's Commissioner Steele, Sheriff Steele, whatever name he goes by at this point, he's also definitely on that Mount Rushmore. And I'll come back to Andre Decker in a second. But speaking of KOW, two things I want to get to, obviously, to promote, because we do have a huge show upcoming July tonight, which I know we're going to definitely be talking a lot about here on Sportswire Radio. Probably with Lucy, and certainly for sure ALP, is you are going to be in the ring with Keenan for the Showcase Championship, and a lot of people are excited about that match, and Keenan's a guy that can definitely go. And what's your expectations in that match going into it against Keenan? Certainly the underclass, you could have a chance to take some gold from them here.
Yeah, the expectations to win. The expectations to win, Tom. Like, Keenan is an absolute phenomenal young talent. Goes without saying, he's a phenomenal young talent. But I just said to you, I go nowhere to be second, nowhere. And I feel at the minute, not just in KOW, everywhere, I just feel the role that I'm on at the minute, I feel like my momentum, even though people are trying to stop my momentum, like Ryan Hunter, the spotlight, and so on, I don't think it can be stopped. I just feel like at the minute I'm on a roll that's going to lead somewhere, and in my opinion, it's leading to titles, and it's leading to titles right across the board, and that starts at KOW. I will beat Keenan, and I will become Showcase champion.
What would it mean to you to be the KOW Showcase champion?
The world. I've told you, I want to win titles in pro wrestling, because that not validates my decision to come here, but it gives me a goal. It gives me a goal, and it shows me where I have what I've attained within wrestling. So, by all means, I absolutely love competing and all that sort of stuff, but competing enough isn't a lot. Competing alone isn't enough. It isn't enough for me. That I have to win. I have to win, because that's what I'm doing it for. I'm a competitor, and when I show up at somewhere, I truly believe if I'm not the best, I'm aiming to be the best there, and that's what I'm doing at KLW now. Like, the Showcase title is my first opportunity at a title there. I plan on winning it, and when I win that, I will then turn my attention to the heavyweight title, because that is how I think. That is how I think. I don't mess around. I never have done. And I'm excited. I'm excited for that match. I think me and Keenan particularly could be really, really athletic, explosive match.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really, really exciting match. And of course, if you like what you hear from KOW on Facebook at KnockoutW, K_O_wrestling, also on Instagram, KO_wrestling on Twitter. And of course, we love KOW here on Sportswire Radio. We have been speaking about KOW for ages here. We are with the natural born fighter, RP Davies, for about another 20 or 25 minutes here. And I'm the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you like what you hear from us on Sports Radio, in fact, I'm choking on stuff. Maybe it's the underclass that have come to choke me out, or the spotlight. But if you do like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, you can definitely give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our content on sportnarium.com/player. And also, we'll be back tomorrow night. In fact, I'll be live on a podcast tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to that with the Working Class Militia and their First Class Amendment show. So, First Amendment show with the boys. Looking forward to that. And also, I want to recognize our new DJs on Sportswire Radio. We have our DJ Slippy, DJ Jail, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. to 11 o'clock British Standard Time on sportnarium.com/play. Also, Thomas Clark, 8:30 to 11 on Saturdays now. So I want to thank Dale and Thomas for their support of the brand, continuing to represent us. So if you like your favorite tunes from yesterday, today, in between, you want to request some tunes, you want to request a tune of Andre Decker getting drubbed by the natural born fighter, RP Davies, you can definitely do that here. So looking forward to all of that here as we were on Sportswire Radio with the natural born fighter, RP Davies. And I got to ask you, because he always comes up in all of my shows, that is the Ronan Brian Aidenson. Now, I wasn't going to bring it up, but I have to bring it up. But what happened last weekend? Because I thought that you and him were going to wrestle, not in KOW, but in Future Shock Pro Wrestling. I mean, what all happened there last weekend?
Well, I mean, we were lined up to wrestle. It was our debuts at Future Shock, which I was excited about, and I know Brian was excited about. You know, they've been established for a long, long time. Future Shock, they're a big company, and it was kind of a chance to debut at a place that we've both trained, and I've trained there for like the last year, and I really feel like I've come on as a performer, which I think then has shown in the subsequent shows that I have done. So I got a chance to do it, and I got lined up with Brian, another great competitor, comes from a martial arts background. You know, right up my street, right up my alley. You know, find out who the best man is. We were just about to go. The bell rang. We locked up. We were just getting into it, and the worst, the tag team, the worst.
I know the worst very well. I know them. That's why I was like, huh? What's going on? Because I know those guys very well from the LWF. I've had Gorgon on. I know them. And I'm like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah, well, they're a pair of little dweebs, but the talented little dweebs is the problem we've got there with them. But they came out, and they didn't like the fact that we'd gone straight into a debut match. In quite, we were the halftime main event in our very first show, and I don't think that went over too well. So they challenged us to a tag team match, which wasn't as part of the agenda. But me, I've never turned down a fight in my life. I ain't starting, and I know Brian won't. So we teamed up, and it took a little. I would be lying if I didn't say it took a little bit of adjusting to each other. Really, we're not tag team wrestlers. And, we've got different personalities in a lot of ways.
Very different personalities. Very different.
Kind of clashed a little bit. And obviously, the worst, although they are the worst, they are the worst at being together. So they're used to being together a lot. And it took a little bit of adaptation, but eventually we got on the same page, and we were able to pull out the win. So, yeah, it was a good debut.
It definitely was. And, of course, shout out as always to the Ronan Brian Aidenson. But I almost have to ask them this question. And I know you're going to be busy on July the 9th. But as last I checked, that the Ronan Brian Aidenson is going to be in action in KOW for the tag team championships against the Freak Show. And it's a opponent, partner of his that hasn't been announced yet. I mean,
right.
Is that something that you're interested in? Do you think that would you want to be a double champion? I mean, there have been instances of double champions.
the chance to become double champion anywhere, I'm in. You know what I mean?
That's why I was like, should I ask this question? Is ALP going to kill me for asking this question? When I ask Lucy, I'm going to ask Lucy the same thing. So I'm like, you know what? I have the man here, and I know Brian's going to come back on before July 9th. Why don't I just ask you right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can definitely pull double duty if that's what they want me to do. But like I say, my focus at KW is on Keenan at the moment, and
Okay.
I don't know what Brian will do. I don't know what his choice will be. I know Brian, because that's the weird relationship we've got. We team together at Future Shock, but I know he's got a few little issues with me at KLW.
Oh, we've spoke about it quite a bit here, obviously. That's why I have to bring his name up. I have to bring it up.
He's got issues with me at KLW because you know I beat him. I beat him at KLW.
Okay, well, he's obviously had his opinions heard loud and clear on that. The record books do show that you did defeat Brian Aidenson, but we'll see if Brian Aidenson will have a tag team partner like the natural born fighter RP Davies. Something tells me here these are reasons why you want to go to KO_wrestling on Twitter, KO_O_wrestling on Instagram, Knockout W on Facebook, just like RPD Fighter on Twitter, R.P.Davis on Instagram, also RPD also on Facebook as well here. So I've got to come back to the unforgettable Andre Decker here. And obviously, you've heard him quite a bit over the past year. And I feel like that this is going to be, like I said before, it's going to determine your fate in Odyssey Pro Wrestling. So I want to give you the floor here. And that, is there anything you want to specifically say to the unforgettable Andre Decker? Because we're just about 48 hours or so, maybe even less than that, between now and you and him finally in Morecambe. Anything you want to say to him directly?
Just buckle up. Buckle up, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Me and Decker have been doing this for a year now, and I know it's a fact. I know this is a match that the Morecambe faithful are fully invested in. They've been desperate to see us go 1-on-1 for nearly a year. We've never had a 1-on-1 match. We've had a lot of encounters together.
Oh, plenty of those. Usually
after my match when my back's turned, we did get some business solved in the triple threat match, and you know I don't want to be the bearer of bad news for Decker, but I did knock him spark out as well during that match, and I promised him I would, and I did, but what I didn't know is that there was a contingency plan by Chris Brooker and Ryan Hunter, so again that. They had the last laugh. They did have the last laugh, the last show. And I've had to deal with that for the last few months. And me and Rick have talked about it. And this is the plan we've gone with. I get Decker on this show. And I will deal with Decker. Rick gets Ryan Hunter. I would have loved to have been the man to take the title off Ryan Hunter. I would. But if it isn't me, can't think of anyone better than Rick, and I have no doubts on Saturday night Rick will take the title off Ryan Hunter, and it's a successful night for us.
Let me ask you this question, because I'd have to ask you on Ryan Hunter. If I didn't ask you on Ryan Hunter before we get out of here in the next 10 or 15 minutes, I would certainly not be doing my job here, because there's a lot of people that are going to be there, obviously, in Morecambe and want to see him and get his ass kicked from the Cumbrian outlaw, Rick Marcus. But, I mean, how shocking was that? Because when you think about Ryan Hunter and you think about everything he's meant to the people in Morecambe, I mean, it really was, and I know Lucy and I spoke about it, it really was on comparison of Hogan Bash at the Beach 96. It really was out of completely left field. It reminded me when Sting turned in WCW. Just to me, it would be like John Cena turning. This was really something that, like, I don't know if anybody saw coming. I mean, how did you feel? I mean, obviously, I know how you felt, but I mean, in terms of like, were you as shocked as everybody else? Because I really thought you and him had a plan that you and him were going to get rid of Decker and you and him were going to fairly fight it out between gentlemen. And we saw what he did there.
Well, that was my plan. That was my plan. Get rid of Decker, and then we'd find out who the best man was. But you just said it before. Ryan Hunter he's literally been called the John Cena of Morecambe.
And he's beloved. I mean, he's literally beloved. I mean, he walks in that town. Listen, he could beat Boris Johnson right now in a landslide in Morecambe. He'd kill him.
so popular and deservedly so, by the way, because some of the performances put in over
No question.
And they loved him. They genuinely loved him. And it was a shock to me, but I've had time now for it to kind of sit on it, and I've watched the tape back, and I've watched it all, and I've seen his reaction after what he did when he turned on me and he hit me from behind with that chair, and yeah, I think it all kind of makes sense now. I think it does make sense. I didn't get it at the time. I do now. He has seen how quickly that fan base in Morecambe have took to me, and this is just honesty speaking. Well, since I came there, they've been behind me from the get-go, which I have been so grateful to have. But he still was behind Ryan. He was still behind Ryan. They loved Ryan. He was their boy. But very, very quickly, my popularity started to rise, and I think it's as simple as he didn't like that. He's been there that long, and he's held that position as their man for so long. He didn't want anyone to challenge it, and I think he saw me coming. And when I said to you then, the plan was to get rid of Decker, and then we'll find out who the best was. I wanted to know that. I wanted to know that answer. I don't think he did. I don't think he did want to know what the answer was, and I think that's exactly what happened. Obviously, before the match, he's made contact with Brooker, and the rest is history.
Very, very disappointing. I think a lot of people were really disappointed about what happened between Ryan Hunter and seeing him join to the spotlight. Again, you could also throw in Austin Rock with the Austin McMahon alliance, very similar. So just really, really disappointing news. But I've got a comment from somebody that actually is somebody that is an individual that may know somebody that could be an individual. So this is a good one for you. I don't know if you're taking applications for opponents, but this individual says here, any opponents who you're interested in having a match with? Disciple, maybe? I mean, Disciple was on here a little while ago, and he made his intentions clear.
Yeah, I listened to him, and I have heard of Disciple, and another phenomenal talent. But you know me, Tom. I'll fight anyone, anybody.
Would Ethan Edwards, though, allow Disciple maybe to be in the ring with you? After you dispose of Andre Decker, possibly? I mean, you might need an opponent.
Yeah, 100%. And if it is him, I'm sure it'll be a hell of a match. I'm sure.
And I tell you what, he's got a victory over the Ronin Brian Aidenson. He's got a victory over the Playboy Prince Lance Rivera, who you're going to be in the ring with August the 27th.
There you go. Yeah.
And he's been a world champion.
Yeah, well, I haven't been a world champion. I haven't.
Oh, you'd love to be in the ring with this guy. Listen, the way he moves in the ring, his athleticism. This guy's good.
I'm interested. I'm interested in wrestling anyone who will make me a better wrestler, a better fighter, a better competitor. I know all about him. He like I say, phenomenal talent, loads of respect for him. But I'm not here to share seconds with anybody, including him. And I mean that with complete respect. If me and him come together one day, which hopefully we do, I'm sure it'll be a great match. But I'm coming to win.
I'll tell you what, I would love to see it. And listen, I've got some pounds in my pocket right now. I'll make sure, I'll pull my pants out. If we need pounds, if the promoters can't afford it, I'll make sure. Don't worry, I'll cover the cost. Listen, I'll cover the cost. It'll be better than what my crypto account is. It'll be better than what my mutual fund is. In fact, I'm pulling it up right here. Listen, if we need the pounds, there's pounds right here. We'll make sure. Listen, we'll make it happen. I can assure you. Listen, we will find a way to make that match happen because
my very own Don King, you need a little flag. You need a little flag to get me going.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have noticed that wrestlers left and right actually have been saying that you've actually helped promote me in terms of getting more followers and getting other wrestlers. So, I mean, if that's the case, I'll definitely appreciate that here, to say the least. Any comparisons I can get to anybody, I definitely appreciate. And also shout out to Disciple for coming on with us, and we will definitely have him on here back. But I want to ask you then this question, the natural born fighter, RP Davies, to anybody that's coming Saturday night, or to anybody that may or may not be coming, but is listening to this, and I always ask you this every time you come on, but I feel like I should ask you because there's always people that may or may not know. But before we get out of here, I wanted to ask you, is there anything you want to say to anybody coming Saturday night and anybody that after hearing this is on the fence that may want to come after hearing what you had to say about the unforgettable Andre Decker and the rest of Odyssey Pro Wrestling?
Oh yeah, I mean, I hope everyone listening wants to come and watch the show. Away from me, this is a phenomenal show, a phenomenal card from top to bottom. Odyssey always put great shows on, and I've said it before. In terms of crowd, I've never come across a crowd anywhere I've ever competed, boxing, fighting, wrestling, anything like the Morecambe crowd. They are unbelievable, and the atmosphere is second to none. Now, with that being said, this show is going to be phenomenal. We've got some great matches on it, including my brother Rick fighting for the world title. And you know, as I said, I won that world title, but my God, I'm going to be proud of him when he wins it. So this is a big night for him as well, and I'm dead excited for that. But for me, this is the end of a grudge that's lasted over a year, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait because I need to put him in my rearview mirror, and I still need to start looking in front of me, which I know the only thing that is in front of me at the minute is a spotlight, and I'm going to go through every single one of them.
I'll tell you what, this could certainly be that make or break moment. This could be the moment here this Saturday where maybe, just maybe, Born Ready evens the score, gets even with the Spotlight, because the Spotlight have been running amok in Odyssey Pro Wrestling. You think about everything that Odyssey Pro Wrestling has seen here. Chris Brooker now getting half the control. We've seen Ryan Hunter, his shocking turn. We've seen the unforgettable Andre Decker and the devastation he's laid here. Also, listen, Reese and Rogan are everywhere. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? This is a great card that you're going to see at Alhambra. And there are many, many other great matches aside from Born Ready being in action. You've also got triple threat match, JJ Webb, Sexy Kev, Big Guns Joe. I mean, that's a phenomenal match. You want to talk about how much pounds that could draw. You've got Nick Cutter and Lucas Neon against the Freak Show. That's going to be an intriguing match. You've got Alexis Falcon and Tonga, and I feel like I've been talking about Tonga and Alexis Falcon since I'm blue in the face. I mean, you've got obviously the new team of Scum against Synergy. I mean, that's a main event in any other company. I mean, you've got, Sam Bailey and Rob Drake. I mean, you want to talk about a stacked card?
Every one of their matches could be a main event.
Absolutely. And you know what? We cover a lot of different companies, as you're aware of. Some of these people, they've been main events in other companies. So this is as stacked a card as you're going to find out. And if you still want to buy a ticket, odysseyprowrestling.co.uk/shop. This is where you can buy a ticket. There's just a few available, few left there. So if you're not doing nothing Saturday night, you already saw Top Gun, you don't want to see it again, you want to see this guy in action, he could be our Tom Cruise. We could very well have the Tom Cruise of Odyssey Pro Wrestling without the Scientology. Hopefully without the Scientology, but we definitely have the Tom Cruise here.
I'll tell you, I haven't got the hair of Tom anymore, but I'll certainly take it. I'll take it.
Well, you've definitely got the star power. You've definitely got all those things. I want to ask you this last question here before I get to closing thoughts, because July 9th is also coming up, Meltdown. And I do want to ask you, because obviously we're going to have Lucy and ALP back on and the Ronin. And anything you want to say to anybody coming out to Cloud9 in the lounge, anybody else you want to address, Keenan, Underclass, anything you want to say to anybody who's coming July 9th, might be coming after hearing this, your opponent, Keenan, or anybody else in the locker room before July the 9th?
No, just double excited. I'm lucky enough now to be able to choose the companies that I want to work with, and I feel like I'm working with all the companies that I always wanted to work with, and KLW are one of them, 100%. And the good thing about that is, because I choose the companies I want to work with, I believe I'm working with some of the best companies in the country, and so all these cards are stacked, including KLWs. And that again, if you go through, if you read off the list of that show, it's absolutely phenomenal, top to bottom. Again, but I can't wait for it. But yeah, in terms of the showcase match, Keenan, what an opponent, what a champion he's been. But in my mind, I've just had AEW's Anthony Ogogo on the ropes, quite literally on the ropes. And I'm sure footage will come out of that one day. But that's been a real good one for me. That's been a good one for me because it's kind of shown me what my level is. And if I can have one of AEW's stars roll, very nearly be. I don't want to spoil it. But
yeah, because we haven't seen the match yet. I haven't got a chance to see it either. So
for some underhanded tactics, things could have been very different. But that's all I'll say about it. But it showed me the level that I'm at, and I just feel now that I'm just gonna. It's kind of giving me more confidence than I've ever had. So I just need to kind of continue with this momentum and push forward. And that starts on Saturday night at Odyssey, when I get rid of Andre Decker, and then obviously in July when I go and win the Showcase title off Keenan.
I'll tell you what, this could be a very, very important next several weeks for the natural born fighter RP Davies. He could finally, after just about a year, finally dispose of the unforgettable Andre Decker. July 9th, he could have a championship for the first time in his career as the Showcase champion. August the 27th, upcoming, which we'll get reactions for next time we have him on, which is the Playboy Prince Lance Rivera, who did hold, for what it's worth, the Wrestle Allen World Championship for a few minutes. So obviously, this is a big week ahead, a big month ahead for the natural born fighter, RP Davies. Will he be turning the spotlight off? It's a strong possibility. I know one thing, you definitely want to follow this guy and all the great things. He has been a great supporter of ours. He has been a friend of ours for a long time. We always like to support those and root for those that have continued to support us. He has been with us, just like he says that we've been loyal to him. Well, we want to continue to be loyal to him as well. So I know you're a busy man and you got to put kids to bed, spend time with the missus, watch Top Gun again maybe. So I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug, share. I can't thank you enough as always, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, what I'll do to finish is I will plug you, Tom. I will plug you because just getting away from my own career and the wrestling and everything like that. I've said it before. Thank you so much for everything you do for not just me, Tom, but for numerous wrestlers across the country. You do give us a platform. You do give us an opportunity to speak to an audience. And obviously help us sell tickets. And that's the name of the game. The name of this game, like anything, is putting bums in seats and entertaining people. So thank you so much for everything you do for us, Tom. And that's it, really. I always look forward to listening and talking to you, mate. And after Saturday, we'll have another great night. And I'm sure we've got loads to talk about again.
Oh, we're always going to have loads to talk about. Listen, that's what's so great about wrestling is that wrestling, it never stops. It always keeps going. There's always something to talk about. And something tells me here again, the natural born fighter is somebody that you are going to want to follow. RPD Fighter Twitter, r.p.davis on Instagram. Also, please like his Facebook page. Over 1,000 likes on Facebook. Also, Disciple Wrestler on Instagram. Also, like his page on Facebook. I want to thank him. I also want to thank tonight Nonstop Action Wrestling. I want to most certainly thank KOW, Knockout W on Facebook, KO_Wrestling Twitter, K_O_Wrestling on Instagram. Also, Odyssey Pro Wrestling. Can never not thank enough Odyssey Pro Wrestling. OPW_UK, Odyssey Pro Wrestling, Facebook, Instagram as well. Also, Odyssey Pro Wrestling's page on Powered 4 TV, Patreon, Odyssey Pro Wrestling. Check that out. All these great things. OdysseyProWrestling.com/co.uk. I mean, there's so many other links out there. I probably lost count. And I want to thank everybody for listening and watching us tonight with the natural born fighter, RP Davies. Also, of course, Disciple, TNT Records in the Lounge. Also, for more ticket information for KOW July, then it's TNT Records Barrow on Twitter. Also, Salt House PO also on Twitter. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody for watching, listening. If you're on Sportswire Radio here live on Facebook, I'll be back here tomorrow night. If you're on sportnarium.com/play, you go back to your regularly scheduled programming along with Northeast Streaming Sports Channel on Roku as well. And one more time before we get out of here, RPD, RPD, RPD. And we were here tonight with the natural born fighter, RP Davies. Just hours before his semi to main event match against the unforgettable Andre Decker, a grudge match that is going to be won. That is going to be a grudge match like no other. You are going to definitely want to hear more from this and the entire card. Mr. Decker will hear from in the near and distant future. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening tonight. Good night. We will be back here soon. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. Good night, and thank you, everybody, for watching and listening here on Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station.